Chapter 34. Yao Rao looked up and down at Yang Dingtian's body and nodded. If it's someone else, it definitely won't work. But with me, it's definitely possible. If it's someone else, it definitely won't work. But with him, it's definitely possible. Your little man's talent is very, very amazing. Even I can't see it clearly. Yao Rao's eyes shone brightly. Yan Yan, your eyes are very good. You really know how to pick a man. But with such good talent, why is it that he's only just past the enlightenment period? Don't worry about that. Yan Yan said, how long will it take for him to become a 6-star Xian martial artist? Yao Rao calculated as she read, then said, half a year. No, that's too long. Yan Yan said. Yao Rao's eyes turned and said, if there's a slightly evil method, maybe it can be shorter. About 4 months. No, that's too long. Yan Yan said. Yao Rao frowned and said, even if it's Dongfang Minmi, even if it's Zhu Qingzhu, they can't become 6-star Xian martial artists in 3 months. Baby, isn't your request too high? Yan Yan said, if it's not high, why would I come to you? No matter what method it is, how long will it take? Yao Rao thought for a long time and said, 3 months. No matter how short it is, I can't do anything. Also, the method is very strange and the consequences are very serious. Yan Yan said, only 15 days. It can't be longer. After half a month, we will be expelled from Cloud Sky City. 15 days. How is that possible? Yao Rao said, also, your father is almost invincible in the entire Western continent. Who dares to do anything to you? My father is no longer here. Yan Yan said indifferently. Impossible. Yao Rao said, who in the world can kill him? Not even Dongfang Minmi. Yang Dingtian said, Zhu Qingzhu, Soul Devourer Xian Qi. Soul Devourer? Yao Rao's delicate body trembled. Even at her level, her beautiful eyes narrowed, revealing a trace of fear. Soul Devourer has appeared in the world again. Was the world's martial arts going to fall again? But why is it Zhu Qingzhu and not me? Yao Rao coldly said, filled with unwillingness. Yao Rao, in 15 days, no matter what, make Yang Dingtian become a 6-star Xian martial artist. Yan Yan coldly said. Her tone towards Yao Rao was always very impolite. Little darling, I really can't do it, I really can't make him advance to level 16 within 15 days, I really can't do it. Enchanting Rao said, you know I love you very much, I always want to accept you as my disciple. So as long as I can do it, I will definitely help you. But I really can't. Yan Yan's beautiful face suddenly showed despair, and said with a sigh, if even you can't do it, then no one in the world can do it. Don't tell me that father's mission can't be completed. Seeing Yan Yan's pale face, Yao Rao's beautiful eyes were filled with heartache, she bit her red lips and said, Yan Yan, there is a method, but it is very evil. I don't know if this method can make him advance to level 16 within 15 days, maybe it can, maybe it is impossible, it depends on the grade of his blood lineage. Yan Yan was pleasantly surprised and said, quickly say it. Yao Rao said, but this method will make you sacrifice a lot, are you willing? I am willing, what method? Yan Yan hastily asked. Yin Yang Devourer Xian Qi, almost no one in the world knows about this secret method. Yao Rao said, first, prepare many treasures and materials, and form a special formation above the magma. Then you too will use a very mysterious evil method to transfer the Xian Qi in your body into the little man's body. You can do this up to 9 times, and finally the Xian Qi in your body will be completely exhausted, but the specific amount of Xian Qi entering the little man's Qi will depend on the grade of his Xian Qi. But as far as I know, each time you can swallow less than 1% of Xian Qi. Moreover, this is an evil method that can only be used between husband and wife. Just as Yao Rao finished speaking, Yan Yan suddenly cried out in alarm, and her beautiful face instantly turned red. Yang Dingtian's neck even turned red. What? You don't want to? Yao Rao said. Yan Yan fiercely clenched her teeth and said, "Who said I don't want to? Say, how do we start? First you have to refine your body." Yao Rao said, "You too have to have nothing on your body, and let the strong fire attribute Xian Qi temper your body and spirit. Then I will read out yin-yang harmony art, and let you two enter the illusion, and open your profound entrances. Then I will lay down a formation, and you two will operate yin-yang devour Xian great technique, and transfer the Xian Qi in your body into the little man's body." Suddenly, Yin Yan's entire body became scalding hot, and her breathing became hurried. Her chest unceasingly heaved, and she fell into an intense struggle. And Yang Dingqian's body seemed to be burned by the magma in the abyss, and even breathing was painful. Because this yin-yang devour Xian great technique was very evil, and it could only be used between husband and wife. Suddenly, Dongfang Minmi's voice echoed in Yang Dingqian's mind, "Child, this yin-yang devour Xian great technique is indeed very powerful. If you want, it can indeed let you rise 16 levels to 6-star Xian martial artist in the shortest time possible." Then, Dongfang Minmi said again, "This fire fox was indeed captured by me, Yan Yan, and others. Because of some special reasons, she really won't harm Shimin Yan Yan. You can indeed trust her in yin-yang devour Xian great technique. It can be said that this is almost the only way to quickly increase your cultivation, the only way. However, everything is up to you. Master won't interfere." After speaking, Dongfang Minmi disappeared again and entered a deep sleep. At this time, Yan Yan, who was struggling incomparably, closed her beautiful eyes and gradually calmed herself down. Opening her beautiful eyes again, Yan Yan looked at Yang Dingtian and said indifferently, "I said, as a wife, I am willing to do everything I should do." Then, Yan Yan reached out to undo her clothes. Yang Dingtian felt as if his entire body was being burned by magma. Fortunately, he had already cleansed his marrow and meridians to the 3rd level, otherwise, he would have already died from spontaneous combustion. His heart was beating so fast that it hurt, and his breathing was as rapid as a bellows. Yan Yan gritted her jade teeth and held back her tears. She looked at Yang Dingtian and said indifferently, "What are you waiting for?" That's right, Shimin Yan Yan was holding back her tears. Desperately suppressing all his impulses, Yang Dingtian said slowly, "I don't want to." "What did you say?" Yan Yan loosened her arms in front of her chest and said, "Say it again." "I don't want to." Yang Dingtian said word by word, "I don't want you to do this." Shimin Yan Yan's face turned cold. "Why? This is not the time for you to be unreasonable. I don't want you to sacrifice for me. I don't want you to give yourself to me because of your father. I don't want your profound qi. I want to rely on myself to become strong." Yang Dingtian said slowly, "Master sacrificed for me. City Lord Shimin sacrificed for me. From now on, I don't want anyone to sacrifice for me." After speaking, Yang Dingtian suddenly turned around and left. "Yang Dingtian, stop right there!" Shimin Yan Yan coldly shouted. Yang Dingtian didn't stop walking. "Yang Dingtian, if you take one more step, you will no longer be my man. I will look down on you." A man acting so sorrowfully because of his pitiful pride. "I, Shimin Yan Yan, look down on you." Shimin Yan Yan said seriously, "You are not doing this for yourself. You are doing this for me, for Cloud Heaven City. Why are you talking about love? As long as you walk out of this stone door, you will no longer be my man." Shimin Yan Yan said word by word. Yang Dingtian turned his head and said slowly, "Yan Yan, your selflessness is actually the same as Dongfang Bingling's selfishness and callousness. It is cruel and heartless. My mission, I will complete it." Yang Dingtian spoke unhurriedly, "I do owe you a lot, but I want to use my own method to complete everything." Then, Yang Dingtian directly walked out. "Yang Dingtian, you bastard!" Behind him, Shimin Yan Yan angrily cursed and then said coldly, "Remember, you are no longer my man. I will not care about your matters anymore. I will just wait for death." Yang Dingtian first ran to the highest point of Cloud Heaven City and looked down at the ground. He wanted to shout out all the pent-up emotions in his heart, but he didn't. He only looked at the ground from the highest point for half an hour. Then, he closed his eyes and allowed his complicated emotions to gradually calm down. Then, he walked towards Cloud Heaven City's hidden art pavilion. No matter what happened, he didn't have time to waste. The hidden art pavilion was a 9-story stone tower. It was wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. The higher the level of the secret manuals. The hidden art pavilion was built on a lonely mountain peak. This mountain peak was outside of Cloud Heaven City. After exiting the west gate of Cloud Heaven City, one had to cross a long suspension bridge to reach it. Along the way, many people pointed at Yang Dingtian and revealed disdainful smiles. Yang Dingtian could completely ignore them. After exiting the city gate, he walked onto the swaying suspension bridge. Under the bridge was a wide and turbulent river that was at least 1,000 meters high. Not far ahead was the hidden art pavilion, the most important place in Cloud Heaven City. Hidden inside were all the secret manuals and scrolls of Cloud Heaven City. It was the core of a martial arts sect. Suddenly, a graceful red figure flashed past. Yang Dingtian was blocked by Shimin Yan. With a light leap, Yin Yan stood on the rope at the edge of the suspension bridge. A strong wind blew, and her red clothes stuck tightly to Yin Yan's body. Yang Dingtian, come back with me and use the devouring Xian technique to absorb my Xian qi. As long as you say no, I will jump down from here. Without using any Xian qi, I will fall to my death in front of you. Note, bosses, please add me to your collection. Please recommend me. Thank you. Chapter 35. Just a moment ago, Yin Yan kept on saying that she would no longer pay attention to Yang Dingtian and would no longer see him, but in less than an hour, she once again appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. If it was in the past, I would definitely no longer pay attention to you. I wouldn't want to see you, and I wouldn't want to say a word to you. Yin Yan looked at the surging river below and said, but those days where I could be willful are just like the flowing water below, once gone, it will never come back. Yang Dingtian, the two of us don't have the right to be pretentious. Is Yaorao's Yin Yang devour mysterious great technique the only way to quickly become stronger? I know. Yang Dingtian said. That's right, he was even more clear than Yin Yan. I have already planned it out. First, I will use the mysterious devour mysterious great technique to give you my mysterious qi. After you completely refine my mysterious qi, I will find a second wife for you, and use the same method to give her mysterious qi to you. Yin Yan said almost expressionlessly, she is much stronger than me, and you can rest assured, she is very moving, and much more gentle and virtuous than me. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was so shocked that he couldn't make any sound. He didn't expect that Yin Yan not only wanted to offer herself, but also wanted to pull another woman. Yes, this is very unfair to her. Yin Yan said, she was adopted by father, called Shimin Ningning, and can be regarded as his other daughter. We are closer than biological sisters, and we even joke that we will marry the same man in the future. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, not to mention that doing this will make me lose my self-esteem, just based on our current situation, I absolutely can't have an intimate relationship with you. Yin Yan blushed and said, you want to say that before you get my heart, you absolutely won't really want me, right? Yang Dingtian lowered his head in tacit agreement. Don't tell me you don't know that in fact, if you want to get a woman's heart, you have to get her body first. When Yin Yan said this, her beautiful eyes unnaturally turned away, and her beautiful face was completely red. So, stop being so pretentious and come back with me. Yin Yan stretched out her small hand, her beautiful eyes blossoming with gentleness as she said, don't worry, I'll learn to love you without worry. Believe me, it won't be long before I put you in my heart. Yang Dingtian's chest began to heave up and down again. He said slowly, Yin Yan, don't force me. I can't do it. Yin Yan's beautiful face immediately became angry. She was about to flare up, but she forcefully restrained herself and said, then I can tell you, even if I don't give my profound energy to you, it will still be wasted. In at most 2 years, the profound energy in my body will completely disperse, and I will become powerless. Why is this happening? Yang Dingtian asked in shock. Don't worry about it, Yan Yan said. In short, you have to know that giving you my profound energy is already the best outcome. Now you just need to tell me, do you agree or not? After being silent for a long time, Yang Dingtian said word by word, sorry, I can't do it. Yang Dingtian, you're not a man. Yan Yan finally couldn't help but flip out. Her jade finger pointed at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, you hypocritical man. I've said all the good and bad things, and I'll ask you one last time. Do you agree or not? If you say no again, I'll jump down and die. I'll do what I say. Yan Yan's beautiful face was filled with determination. Her beautiful eyes stared at Yang Dingtian. Her temper was very strong, and she really meant what she said. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. He didn't agree or refuse, and directly said, if you jump, I'll jump too. Let's just be a pair of mandarin ducks with the same fate. Suddenly, Yan Yan was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Her beautiful face was red with anger. Her eyes were wide open, as if they were about to spit out fire. Yang Dingtian, do you know? I can't wait to kill you with my sword. I've never seen a man as hateful as you. I won't like you even after 100 years. Yan Yan jumped from the rope back to the suspension bridge, and then directly walked forward. After walking for more than 10 meters, Yan Yan turned around and angrily said, what are you still standing there for? Why aren't you following me to the Hidden Merit Pavilion to practice? I want to see what kind of person you are. If you can't, then obediently come and sleep with me. Don't say any more nonsense. The two angrily walked across the suspension bridge, which was a few hundred meters long, and arrived at the Hidden Merit Pavilion. What a huge and magnificent Hidden Merit Pavilion. Although this stone tower only had 9 floors, it was a full 200 meters long. The bottom floor occupied an area of nearly 10,000 square meters. If the Hidden Merit Pavilion is so important, why isn't there even a guard? Yang Dingtian asked. Yan Yan didn't want to bother with him, but after a while, she unhappily said, who said there's no one guarding? Elder Mu Yi is in charge of guarding the Hidden Merit Pavilion. He's the elder in the Elder Council that you haven't seen before. In Cloud Heaven City, his cultivation is second only to my father. However, he's guarding the Hidden Merit Pavilion's array, so he can't leave this mountain peak. Before the sacrifice, Yan Yan rarely spoke to Yang Dingtian. Her attitude was indifferent, but she was always polite. After the sacrifice, Yan Yan's attitude towards Yang Dingtian was filled with anger. This was perhaps a very moving change. Yang Dingtian also understood why an elder was absent at such an important time like the Elder Council's vote. Which floor are we going to? Yang Dingtian asked. Of course, the first floor. You're not even a novice warrior. Which floor do you want to go to? Yan Yan still unhappily said. Then, she directly walked through the door of the Hidden Merit Pavilion's first floor. Yang Dingtian followed her in and walked through a blue light screen door. A wave of energy gently blocked him, and then Yang Dingtian smoothly entered. The door of the first floor could be passed through as long as one had passed the Enlightenment period. The space of the first floor was very large. It had an area of over 10,000 square meters. 10 rooms surrounded the entire hall in a circular shape. These rooms had the words First Rank Cultivation Technique Room, Second Rank Cultivation Technique Room, Third Rank Cultivation Technique Room, Ninth Rank Cultivation Technique Room. Only the door of the last room had nothing written on it. The empty space in the center of the hall was about 100 square meters. There was almost nothing in it except for a ball of sparkling water floating in the center. That ball of water was about 1 foot square. It didn't fall even though it was 1.5 meters high in the air. It was constantly moving in an irregular shape. In the water, balls of blue flames were quietly burning. This ball of water and fire is used to test your Xian Meridian's talent. Yan Yan said, your Xian Meridian's talent will determine your Xian Meridian's talent. The higher your Xian Meridian's talent, the higher the Xian Meridian's talent. Yang Dingtian knew that he had 9 Sun Divine Meridians, but his master Dongfang Minmi told him to never tell anyone about it. How many Xian Meridians talent are there? Yang Dingtian asked. I don't know. Yan Yan said, but in the past 1,000 years, the highest Xian Meridians talent was only 9th Meridians. There were a total of 9 people, and these 9 people all advanced to the martial saint realm. However, the last 9th Meridian's talent was more than 300 years ago. Therefore, there hasn't been a martial saint expert for more than 400 years. Then, Yan Yan frowned and said, put your hand in. I want to see how much Uncle Dongfang and Father value you. What kind of genius are you? When she said this, Yan Yan's mouth was filled with unwillingness and unwillingness. By the way, what is my master's Xian Meridians? What is Martial Uncle Shimon's Xian Meridians? Yang Dingtian asked. My father is 8th Meridians, and Sect Master Dongfang is 8th Meridians. However, my father has 8th Meridians, and his cultivation is not inferior to Sect Master Dongfang. Therefore, he is the strongest person in the world. Yan Yan curled her lips and said, by the way, your ex-fiancée Dongfang Bingling is 8th Meridians, but her 8th Meridians are higher than Sect Master Dongfang. She is regarded as the person closest to 9th Meridians in the world. What about you? Yang Dingtian asked again. Yan Yan's beautiful eyes flickered. She clenched her fist and gritted her teeth. 8th Meridians are close to 8th Meridians, only a little worse than your ruthless ex-wife. Yang Dingtian was slightly shocked. He really didn't expect that Yan Yan's Xian Meridians were close to 8th Meridians. She was almost at the top of the world. Then why was there such a huge gap between his cultivation and Dongfang Bingling's? She couldn't even beat Shimin Yan. Why was this? You want to ask why my Xian Meridians are so talented, but why are they so weak? I can't even beat Dongfang Bingling's little finger, right? Yan Yan Shimin said loudly, let me tell you, my current cultivation is the same as when I was 9 years old. When I was 15 years old, something happened to me. Therefore, no matter how hard I tried to cultivate, my cultivation kept regressing. No matter how hard I tried, it was useless. In 2 years, I won't have any martial strength left. Do you finally know why I was willing to give you the Xian Qi in my body? It's because it's a waste in my body. You hypocrite. If I wasn't injured that year, why would I ask you to marry me? Why would I ask you to have sex with me? Why would I need you to become the Lord of Cloud Sky City? The original me was the most outstanding genius of Cloud Sky City in the past 300 years. This should be Yan Yan's most painful past, a past that she didn't want to touch. Saying it now was the same as fiercely tearing open the scar in the depths of her memory. She tried to hold back her tears, but she was crying in her heart. She saw a trace of blood seeping out from the corner of Yan Yan's mouth. She gritted her teeth too hard. She clenched her fists so tightly that her nails pierced her tender palms. Blood flowed through the gaps between her fingers. Yang Dingtian, aren't you the only one with a painful and tragic past? Aren't you the only one who was betrayed? Yan Yan stared at Yang Dingtian. So, can you put away your pretentious feelings? For the sake of Cloud Sky City, for the sake of my father's mission, have sex with me and accept my Xian Qi. Yang Dingtian slowly walked forward and grabbed her fists. He carefully pried open her stiff palms and said softly, I'm sorry, Yan Yan. I know too little about you. But please give me a chance. Give me a chance to prove myself. We don't have time, my husband. Yan Yan said word by word, we only have half a month. Give me time, give me time. Otherwise, I won't be able to raise my head for the rest of my life. Yang Dingtian said firmly and gently. Then, he used his finger to gently wipe away the blood at the corner of Yan Yan's mouth and said, I believe that you have had your moments of pride before. You also know the pain of having your pride shattered. Yang Dingtian's last words moved Yan Yan. She used to be as proud as Dongfang Bingling. But now, her martial arts cultivation had completely faded into the crowd. She had been completely forgotten by the world. Only her beauty was left. Okay, I'll give you time. I'll give you 10 days. Yan Yan stared at Yang Dingtian. If you break through to the Xian martial artist in 10 days, then it proves that you can rely on your own strength to continue. If you can't, then it proves that you can't. Then use my method to accept my and Sister Ningning's profound energy through the yin-yang devour profound art. How about it? It's a deal. Yang Dingtian said slowly, now, let's see how talented my profound veins are. I'm valued by my master and your father. Then, Yang Dingtian said, what should I do? Just put your hands into the water. Yin Yan's beautiful eyes looked at the flame in the water and said, this flame is the purest profound energy. When your hands are close to it, the profound veins in your body will be attracted to it. The higher the grade of your bloodline, the greater the attraction, and the bigger the blue flame. When the volume of the flame occupies 1/10 of the water, it means that your bloodline is first grade. If the volume of the flame exceeds 4/5, then it's 8th grade. If it exceeds 9/10, then it's 9th grade. Yan Yan said, Dongfang Bingling's flame occupies 80% of the volume. She's only one step away from 9th grade. Yang Dingtian immediately held his breath. Although he knew that he had 9 yang profound veins, he was still a little nervous. He didn't know that 9 yang profound veins were top grade. Could it be 9th grade? Yan Yan seemed to be even more nervous than Yang Dingtian. Because all her hopes were placed on Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian's hands slowly reached into the water. The flame seemed to feel a force of attraction. It slowly stretched and approached Yang Dingtian's palm. The flame grew longer and longer. Yan Yan stared at the flame and couldn't breathe. Chapter 36. Yan Yan felt as if her heart was about to jump out of her chest. When the flame came into contact with Yang Dingtian's palm, it wasn't hot at all. There was a very mysterious feeling, as if the flame had a life of its own. Suddenly, the flame fiercely shot up. Heavens! Yan Yan suddenly let out a cry of surprise, not daring to believe what she was seeing. When the flame came into contact with Yang Dingtian's palm, it suddenly became incomparably violent and sharp. It suddenly became longer and thicker, turning into a blue flame sword. It fiercely pierced out of the water, straight towards Yang Dingtian's forehead. The flame sword was nearly a meter long, while the water was only a square foot. A flame sword that was more than a meter long. Yang Dingtian cried out in surprise, and Yan Yan hurriedly rushed over to save him. But when the flame sword just touched Yang Dingtian's forehead, it retracted back like lightning, once again becoming docile, and the flame in the water became smaller and smaller. Yan Yan, what grade of profound veins is my profound veins? Yang Dingtian looked at the flame in surprise. Yan Yan stared blankly at everything, and after a long while, she shook her head and said, I don't know what grade this is. The flame directly rushed out of the water. I've never seen or heard of this before. But, I finally know why my father and Uncle Dongfang value you so much, and would place all their hopes on you. Yan Yan looked at Yang Dingtian with a slightly complicated gaze and said, in the future, no matter where, in front of anyone, you can't take the profound veins test. At this time, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside, and a person walked in through the energy door. Yang Dingtian quickly pulled his hands out of the water, and the flame quickly returned to its original state, quietly burning in the water. Don't block it, I've already seen it. A girl wearing a purple-red dress walked in. She looked at Yang Dingtian from head to toe and said, You are the husband of our Princess Shiman. TSK TSK. The girl shook her head and said to Yan Yan, Cousin, your vision isn't very good. It's fine if this man doesn't look that good, but his talent is so mediocre. 3rd rank, he's only 3rd rank. You actually chose a person with 3rd grade profound veins to be your husband. You actually want him to become a 6-star profound martial artist in 15 days and defeat all the experts in Cloud Sky City in a year and a half. You want him to become the new lord of Cloud Sky City. This is truly absurd. The purple-red girl smiled and said, The 2 boys beside me are my new students. Like your husband, They have just passed the Enlightenment period and are here to choose secret manuals. But they're only in their teens. Your husband is already 20. Shimin Yan, before you turned 15, weren't you extremely arrogant? You said that only martial saints were worthy of being your husband. Why do you want this kind of trash now? You really don't reject anyone. The girl continued to speak harshly. This girl was also very beautiful. She was very tall and had 2 long legs. She had a delicate oval face. Unfortunately, her lips were a little thin. Even though she used lip gloss to cover it, it was fine when she didn't speak. Once she spoke, it couldn't be covered up. It was because of this thin lip that she couldn't become a first-class beauty. Yanyan's beautiful eyes were cold as she said, Tang Xian, you change your face very quickly. I remember that half a year ago, you were still trying to please me. Even after the gift you gave me was thrown away, you still had a smile on your face. So what? The girl called Tang Xian said, now that your father is no longer here, you're no longer the princess of Cloud Sky City. 4 years ago, your profound veins left you. Now, all you have left is that vixen face of yours. Yan was so angry that she trembled. She couldn't speak for a moment. In a year and a half, you'll have to shamefully remarry to the Qin clan's young master. Who knows, you might not even be able to be his wife. You can only be a lowly concubine. Tang Xian smiled and said, oh right, I forgot to tell you. Brother Shimanju, who was infatuated with you, has already proposed to my father. Yan was slightly stunned. Shimanju's infatuation with her had indeed reached the point of madness. It was to the point that he hadn't married even when he was in his 30s. My brother Shimanju, compared to your husband, the difference is like heaven and earth. Tang Xian looked at Yan and said, cousin, I really sympathize with you. You were so arrogant before. After your father died, you had nothing. Now that you've fallen to this state, it's really retribution. Hearing the other party mentioning her father in such a harsh tone, Yan's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Her small hand grabbed the weapon at her waist and was about to pull it out to kill this woman in front of her. However, she forcefully held it in. Although Yan was unruly before, she was also naive and romantic. She didn't know how to quarrel and couldn't be compared to this harsh Tang Xian in front of her. Therefore, she was so angry that her whole body trembled. Yang Dingtian held Yan's ice-cold wrist and walked in front of her and Tang Xian. He looked at the other party from head to toe. Tang Xian proudly raised her head and allowed Yang Dingtian to look at her. She was a great beauty and she had the right to be proud. Wow, you're really not bad. You're also very tall. Especially your legs, they're unusually long. Yang Dingtian praised, Shimanju is young and handsome. Indeed, you're a good match. Hearing Yang Dingtian's praise, Tang Xian looked pleased and said, cousin, brother Shimanju's infatuation with you in the past was all fake. The one he truly loved was me. Now that your father is no longer here, he immediately threw himself into my arms. Even if you're so jealous that you want to vomit blood, it's useless. Yang Dingtian ignored her. His gaze landed on Tang Xian's chest and said, the front is also perky, and the back is also perky. Your figure is not bad. Suddenly, Yan's face became very ugly. She fiercely glared at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian continued to sneer, however, it's a pity that it's all fake. It's all padded. I'm very worried for you. Will Shimanju return the goods when he consummates with you? Will he throw you out of the window? Before Yang Dingtian could finish, he cried out in pain because Yan had ruthlessly pinched his waist. He endured the pain and narrowed his eyes. Look at Yan again. There's not a single spot on her body that isn't perfect. Even when you're angry, you're still 10,000 times more charming than when you're acting coquettishly. Ah! Yang Dingtian cried out in pain again. Yan had already used both her hands to pinch him. Don't think that just because something happened to City Lord Shiman, you can turn around and become a princess. Stop dreaming. Cloud Heaven City only has one princess, and that's Yen Yen. Don't be so impatient to take revenge on your previous flattery. It's important to know oneself. If you do this, the first person who wants to kill you is not anyone else but your brother Shiminju. Tang Xian's face was already distorted from anger because Yang Dingtian's words had stabbed her where it hurt. She had already tried her best to cover up these flaws, but they were still seen through by Yang Dingtian and magnified infinitely. I'm going to kill you. Instantly, Tang Xian, who was so angry that her entire body was trembling, pulled out her long sword and stabbed towards Yang Dingtian. Enough! Suddenly, a shout came from outside. It was Shiminju's voice. Instantly, Tang Xian seemed to be frozen in place. Shiminju didn't enter. Instead, he stood outside and said, Tang Xian, do what you're supposed to do. Yes. Tang Xian's face was filled with fear. She was afraid that Shiminju would hear Yang Dingtian talking about her flaws. Shiminju's cold snort was enough to make her tremble. It could be seen that she really loved him to the extreme. After hearing Shiminju's words, she immediately brought her 2 students into a 5th-grade martial arts room. She even carefully closed the door. Shiminju still didn't enter. He only said coldly, only a clown would show off. Did you come to Cloud Heaven City just to be a clown like this? He didn't even call out Yang Dingtian's name. It could be seen that he was extremely disdainful. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, a man has to protect his woman at all times. I'm too weak now and can't defeat your woman. Therefore, I can only use my mouth to fight. I've made a fool of myself. I hope that half a month later, you can also use your best to defeat your opponent, Shiminju said coldly. Then, he left without any signs of life. Yen Yen tilted her head and stared at Yang Dingtian with a strange gaze. You seem to know a woman's body very well. You can tell clearly even through the clothes. Yang Dingtian rubbed his waist and said, I haven't eaten pork, but I've seen a pig run. Yen Yen continued, also, what did you mean by your words just now? Did you say that I'm a vase with only a face? Yen Yen, you're being unreasonable. You're already so beautiful. What else do you want? Yang Dingtian said. Yang Dingtian sighed softly and said, but I swear that I will never use my mouth to fight with others again. I will never use my mouth to protect you. Yen Yen rolled her eyes at Yang Dingtian and said, it's good that you know. Furthermore, Tang Xian is also a pitiful woman. Now, it was time to choose a secret manual to learn. Depending on the grade of the mystic veins, the secret manual would be of the same grade. In front of them, there were a total of 10 secret manuals rooms. They were from the 1st grade to the 9th grade, and there was even a room without a grade. Yen Yen, which room should I enter? Which grade of secret manual should I learn? Yang Dingtian asked. Yen Yen Shimin said, let's go. Follow me in. Yen Yen Shimin led Yang Dingtian and pushed open the door to a secret manual room. But it was an 8th grade secret manual room, not a 9th grade one. Yang Dingtian was slightly startled, but followed her in. In the 8th grade martial arts room, there were only 3 bookshelves in an area of a few hundred square meters. On the first bookshelf, there were a total of 5 scrolls. On the second bookshelf, there were a total of 3 scrolls. On the third bookshelf, there was only 1 scroll. In total, there were only 9 secret manuals. Why are there so few secret manuals? Yang Dingtian asked. The higher the grade, the fewer secret manuals. Yen Yen Shimin said, in the 1st grade martial arts room, there are a few thousand secret manuals. In the 7th grade martial arts room, there are only 80 secret manuals. In the 8th grade martial arts room, there are only 9 scrolls. Although I don't know how your talent is, it should be very high. So, the martial arts technique that you want to learn, you can choose from these 8 scrolls. Remember, once you choose a secret manual, you can't change it for the rest of your life. A martial artist can only learn one martial arts technique in their lifetime, from the 1st grade to the 9th grade. Chapter 37. Only one type of martial skill? Yang Dingtian asked in bewilderment. That's right. Martial skills determine a martial artist's mystic chi route and attack attribute. Therefore, martial artists can only learn one type of martial skill in their lifetime. However, after becoming a great mystic martial master, they can learn many types of mystic skills. Du Gufengwu said, martial skills determine a person's mystic chi cultivation level. On the other hand, profound skills determine the strength of a person's attack. Martial skills are the foundation, while mystic skills are the branches. Following that, Yen Yen picked up a manual and said, "This is the Blaze Devil Sword Art, an 8th grade elementary manual. It has a powerful area of effect. Mystic chi automatically carries a destructive aura. Once the enemy is hit, they will be continuously injured." After finishing, Yen Yen looked at Yang Dingtian to see if he was interested. Yang Dingtian took the manual and closed his eyes to feel it. After a while, he put it back. Yen Yen picked up another manual and introduced, "This is the Violent Prison Rending Saber Art, an 8th grade intermediate saber art. It has a powerful penetrative ability and uses mystic chi as astral chi. It is indestructible." Yang Dingtian said, "I want to practice the sword. Therefore, I will only choose the sword art." "Why?" Yen Yen said, "The other weapons are not that bad, right?" "Because I want to cultivate the sword soul." Yang Dingtian said because he recalled how powerful Shimen Wuya was when he executed the sect origin sword soul. Furthermore, this was just a sect origin sword soul that was in the growth stage. "Ah!" Yen Yen exclaimed, "The sword soul is the king of martial souls. It is very, very difficult. There are only 3 people in the world who have cultivated the sword soul. You have to think carefully." "Which 3 people?" Yang Dingtian asked. "My father, sect leader Dongfang, the sect leader of the Yin sect, and even Zhu Qingzhu didn't manage to cultivate a sword soul," Yen Yen said. "In this world, there are 100 people who want to cultivate a sword soul, but less than half of them succeed. For an ordinary martial spirit, one only needed to capture a powerful demonic beast and refine it. Therefore, any profound martial artist could have a martial spirit to assist them in battle. However, if it's a sword soul, I'm afraid that even a grandmaster wouldn't be able to refine it. They wouldn't even have enough materials to forge a sword soul." "Are the materials for soul swords very difficult?" Yang Dingtian asked. "Sword soul is to give a sword life and soul. Therefore, in order to use the best body, the Yang bloodline required bloody black gold, at least 99 pieces of bloody black gold. Just these 99 pieces of bloody black gold, a martial artist would have to travel tens of thousands of miles under the heavens and spend at least 10 years to find them." Yen Yen said, "Not to mention the profound vein essence that is used to construct the soul sword profound vein and the even rarer and more precious sea spirit crystal. If it's not for luck, a person might not be able to find all these materials in their lifetime." Yang Dingtian immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and asked in his heart, "Master, is this true?" "It's true." Dongfang Minmi said, "I found enough bloody black gold and spent 10 years traveling the world. As for the profound vein essence and sea spirit crystal, it's completely up to fate. Therefore, cultivating a sword soul is almost the most difficult thing in the world. It's much more difficult than cultivating to the grandmaster level." Yang Dingtian was stunned and asked again in his heart, "Then how powerful is the sword soul?" "The king of martial spirits." Dongfang Minmi said, "Whoever can refine a powerful sword soul will be invincible under the heavens. Your martial uncle Shimen's sword soul is only at the growth level, but it's already so powerful. In another 10 years, no one in the world will be able to contend with him. Because he chose the most difficult path, the sword soul he chose is also the most difficult and most powerful sword soul." Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's blood boiled. "You're pressed for time, cultivating a sword soul will be even more difficult." Dongfang Minmi said, "Therefore, cultivating an ordinary martial spirit will make you very powerful in advance. You have the 9 yang profound veins, so you can refine a very powerful martial spirit. But, if you don't cultivate a sword soul, you'll never be able to reach the peak of this world. You'll never be able to kill Zhu Qingzhu, and you'll never be able to defeat Dongfang Bingling. Because she also chose the most difficult path, she also chose to cultivate a sword soul. I know what to do, master. Yang Dingtian said. Then, he looked at Yan Yan and said, I chose to learn the sword, so I only need to choose a sword art. Yan Yan looked at him for a while and said, You and my father are the same, both of you are crazy. Then, she walked to the second shelf and picked up one of the secret manuals. This is the 8th rank secret manual, Devil Devouring Sword Art. This sword art contains the brightest Xian Qi energy. It's as pure as the 2 suns in the sky. It's fatal to experts of evil ways. Yan Yan introduced. Before Yang Dingtian could take it, Yan Yan put it back. Because no matter if it was now or in the future, the opponents that Yang Dingtian would face would not be of evil ways. Whether it was the experts of Cloud Sky City, Dongfang Bingling, or even the Black Sky Sect, they were all famous sects in the world. Yan Yan came to the last shelf and said, You didn't like the previous ones, so this secret manual is your only choice. 8th rank secret manual, Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword. It's the world's most unyielding and resolute, the most iron-blooded and unyielding sword art. It's invincible and fearless. It conquers hardness and softness. It's domineering and has the aura of a king. Yan Yan almost used all the words to describe this secret manual. You don't like the others, so you can only choose this Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword, Yan Yan said and handed the secret manual to Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian took the secret manual and felt a strong and vast energy. It instantly numbed his entire body. His Xian meridians seemed to be hungry and eager to try. However, Yang Dingtian looked at the door unwillingly. Next door was a 9th rank secret manual, which was also the highest ranked secret manual in Cloud Sky City. Which secret manual is Martial Uncle Shiman cultivating? Yang Dingtian asked. Yan Yan said, He's cultivating the only 9th rank secret manual in Cloud Sky City, Disaster Overcoming Sword Art. Yang Dingtian asked again, What's the highest ranked secret manual in the world? 9th rank. Yan Yan said, The highest Xian skills secret manual in the world is the 9th rank. There are only a few 9th rank secret manuals in the world. Even Yinyang School doesn't have more than 2 or 3 of them. In Cloud Sky City, there's only one. Yang Dingtian said, I want to take a look at this 9th rank secret manual, Disaster Overcoming Sword Art. Yan Yan took a deep breath and said bitterly, It's gone. It was stolen. 5 years ago, it was stolen. Yang Dingtian's heart stopped. 5 years ago, Yan Yan was injured and her cultivation was destroyed. And the only 9th rank secret manual in Cloud Sky City was also stolen 5 years ago. Could there be a connection? This seemed to be the most painful part in Yan Yan's heart. She didn't want to talk about it anymore and changed the topic. My father only has intermediate 8th rank Xian meridians, but he chose to learn intermediate 9th rank secret manuals. Crossing ranks to cultivate, he was almost on the path of death. In the first few years, he didn't improve at all. His talent was almost destroyed. You don't have a choice. This Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Art is already the strongest secret manual in Cloud Sky City, Yan Yan said. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and asked, How strong can I be if I learn this upper 8th rank Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Art? Martial Saint. Yan Yan said, The first Cloud Sky City Lord, Yang Yunshao, gave up on the 9th rank secret manual and chose this upper 8th rank Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Art. In the end, he became a martial saint and became the last martial saint in the world. That's strong. Yang Dingtian said in disbelief, Can a martial saint become a martial saint with an upper 8th rank secret manual? Yan Yan said, Anyway, City Lord Yang Yunshao did it. When he saw the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Art, he loved it so much that he couldn't put it down. It was as if it was made for him. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and felt a surge of emotions. This was a martial skill that Martial Saint Yang Yunshao had learned. If he could use this sword art to become a martial saint, why can't I? Have you thought about it? Once you've decided, you can't change it, Yan Yan said. Yang Dingtian held the scroll in his hand and said, once I choose the secret manual, how do I learn it? Yan Yan said, open it and then insert a stream of celestial qi into the scroll. After your celestial qi enters the secret manual, it will merge with the martial skill. After the celestial qi flows through the secret manual, it will bring all the information of the martial skill back into your body. Then, you can start learning the martial skill. So magical. It wasn't a text, nor was it a picture. Yang Dingtian held his breath and opened the scroll of the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword art. It was made of a special material. There were no words or pictures on it, only very complicated patterns. Some were sunken and some were protruding. These patterns were really very complicated. Furthermore, they were divided into several layers. They were countless times more complicated than the watermarks on the banknotes on Earth. Master, where did these secret manuals come from? Were they written by a top expert a few hundred years ago? Yang Dingtian asked in his heart. No, they were dug out from the ground. They were written by a top expert in the ancient times. The Great Nirvana extinction destroyed the entire world. Most of the things were destroyed. These secret manuals were also buried underground. Dongfang Minmi said. Great Nirvana extinction? What is Great Nirvana extinction? Yang Dingtian asked. Dongfang Minmi said, a few thousand years ago, or more than 10,000 years ago, there was a great Nirvana extinction. The entire world was completely destroyed. The entire martial Tao completely collapsed. The primal chaos continent completely fell. The earth became the ocean, and the ocean became the earth. No one knows why there was a great Nirvana extinction. However, almost all the strongest secret manuals were left behind from the ancient times. Yang Dingtian was shocked when he heard this. Since the ancient times were so powerful, what kind of energy could destroy that world and cause the great Nirvana extinction? However, the primal chaos Heaven Destroyer sword in his hand came from the ancient times. It was even more extraordinary. Instantly, Yang Dingtian's gaze became even more intense. He placed his palm on the secret manual and was about to insert his celestial qi. Yan Yan held her breath. She looked at Yang Dingtian with worry and anticipation. Time passed by slowly. Yang Dingtian, who had already made up his mind, did not insert his celestial qi. Yan Yan was puzzled. Dongfang Minmi was also puzzled. Child, didn't you already choose this secret manual? Why aren't you inserting your celestial qi? I don't know, Master. Yang Dingtian said, I'm obviously very enthusiastic. Moreover, this is already the highest level secret manual in Cloud Sky City. My heart is filled with the desire to learn it, but I just can't take the last step. I can't find the same feeling as Yang Yunxiao when he saw this secret manual. There's no feeling of sparks flying in all directions. Then, Yang Dingtian could not help but ask, Master, what level of secret manual is Dongfang Bingling learning? Dongfang Minmi was silent for a moment. Then, he said, it's the most supreme sword technique in the world. It's a 9th grade superior sword technique. In 400 years, she's the only one who learned this sword technique. Instantly, Yang Dingtian sucked in a breath of cold air. The sword technique that Dongfang Bingling learned was 3 levels higher than Yang Dingtian's. It was countless times more difficult. However, in Cloud Sky City, the highest level secret manual was the Primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword in his hand. How should Yang Dingtian choose? Child, listen to your instincts, Dongfang Minmi said slowly. Seeing that Yang Dingtian did not start, Yan Yan could not help but ask, what are you waiting for? Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian made a decision. He immediately rolled up the secret manual and put it back in its original place. Yan Yan, are there any other secret manuals? For example, in the 10th room, there's a room without any words on the door. What kind of secret manual is inside? Chapter 38. Tears, that place. Yan Yan said, that place is filled with unranked secret manuals. It's all a pile of trash. Trash? Yang Dingtian was puzzled. Yan Yan said, the secret manuals there are very inferior and unranked. Or they can't be cultivated at all. According to the elders, those secret manuals were carelessly written by some weak martial artists in ancient times, but later generations dug them out like treasures. After learning them, they found out that they were completely useless and harmed many people. Every sect has a lot of such trash secret manuals. Take me there. Yang Dingtian said. What are you going to do there? Yan Yan said. Just take me there. Yang Dingtian said. Yan Yan frowned, but still took Yang Dingtian out. They went to the 10th room, the storage room for trash secret manuals. Opening the door, a dusty smell came out. It was unknown how long it had been since someone came here. There was a thick layer of dust everywhere. There were no bookshelves here. Countless scrolls were thrown everywhere, and some of them were already broken. Yang Dingtian bent down and picked up a scroll. He opened it halfway and found that half of it was already rotten, so he threw it aside. He picked up another scroll. This secret manual was called Universe Devouring Technique. The name was really heaven-defying. But when he opened it, he found that the lines on it were completely scribbled with a few strokes, and it was broken in several places. Although Yang Dingtian didn't understand these secret manuals, he knew that they were trash. He picked up several secret manuals in succession and found that they were all trash. Originally, he wanted to pick up treasures in the trash, but it was impossible. Okay, stop looking. It's all trash. Yan Yan suddenly said, who knows how many people had the same idea as you, but in the end, they all returned disappointed. I can tell you that I have read all the trash secret manuals here. At that time, I also had the same idea as you when I came to find treasures. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was extremely disappointed. He could only go back to learn the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword. Following Yan Yan, he turned and left the trash secret manual room. Crack! Suddenly, there was a cracking sound, and a crack appeared on the hard stone floor. Then, a golden light seeped out. Yang Dingtian was pleasantly surprised that something had happened. He ran over and took a closer look. From the crack in the stone slab, he saw a scroll lying a few feet underground. It was a golden scroll, the only golden scroll that Yang Dingtian had ever seen. Yang Dingtian excitedly dug out the scroll and opened it expectantly. There were 4 words written on it: pig-slaying swordsmanship. Yang Dingtian almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Other secret manuals' names were either domineering or mysterious, but this pig-slaying swordsmanship was actually so weird. Moreover, there were no patterns on this secret manual. It was completely blank. He then looked at Yan Yan Shimin, who had a strange expression on her face. She sneered, "You think you've picked up a treasure, that you've had a fortuitous encounter. You're at least the 100th person to open this secret manual." Yan Yan said, "This is trash among trash. There's nothing inside. Many people have injected their profound chi into it, but there was no reaction at all. This is a completely blank secret manual." That's right. When Yang Dingtian held the other secret scrolls in his hand, he could feel a surge of energy. However, this pig-slaying sword art had no energy at all. But for some reason, Yang Dingtian had a very, very strange feeling when he grasped the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Suddenly, the Dongfang Minmi in his mind let out a bewildered voice, "This secret manual is very, very strange." "How so?" Yang Dingtian asked. "Even if it's a high-level secret manual, when I look at it, I always seem to see an image of martial arts." Dongfang Minmi said, "But now, when I look at this secret manual, I actually can't see anything." However, it wasn't completely blank either. It was like the vast blue dome of heaven. Looking up, there were only specks of stars. I wanted to get closer, but it was extremely proud and disdained to let me see it. I'm learning a 9th-rank secret manual, but it doesn't have this unattainable feeling. Of course, this is just my feeling. Dongfang Minmi said. Yang Dingtian said with faint excitement, "Master, I don't know why, but when I hold this secret manual, I have a very special feeling, as if I'm going to devour it, or it's going to devour me. That's right. When he held the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword just now, the profound chi in his body was just about to move. But at this time, it was a fatal attraction. It was like the endless thirst of a desert for a storm. Follow your heart. Maybe this is your fate. Dongfang Minmi said slowly. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes to feel for a long time. When he opened his eyes again, his face was full of determination. This is it. I believe in my own feelings. Yang Dingtian said in his heart. Then he opened his palm and injected profound qi. Yang Dingtian, you're crazy. Yan Yan said, there were a few people who had the same idea as you and decided to learn this blank pig-slaying swordsmanship. Do you know what happened after they injected profound qi? What? Yang Dingtian asked. A blank slate. Yan Yan said, no matter how high one's talent is, after injecting profound qi to learn the pig-slaying swordsmanship, not only will they learn a blank slate, they will also become a blank slate. One of the 8th-rank geniuses learned the pig-slaying swordsmanship, but his cultivation never improved. Until he died, he didn't even become a novice warrior. Every genius who didn't believe in heresy became complete trash after learning the pig-slaying swordsmanship. This pig-slaying swordsmanship is a disaster. Our Cloud Sky City has long wanted to destroy it. But no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't destroy it. Later, we buried it under the floorboards here. Who would have thought that the floorboards would split open today, allowing you to discover it? Yan Yan said, in short, if you learn this secret manual, you'll be completely finished. So, no matter what, I won't let you learn this bullshit pig-slaying swordsmanship. Yan Yan said. But my heart tells me that it's what I want. Yang Dingtian said. Many people have the same idea as you. Yan Yan said, come with me immediately and leave this room. I want to bury this harmful thing again. You go and learn the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword. Yang Dingtian held the secret manual tightly and didn't move. His eyes were filled with impulsiveness. Yang Dingtian, are you going to listen to me? Yan Yan said angrily, am I still your wife? Are you going to listen to your wife? Aren't you going to put it down? Why aren't you leaving? Don't force me to make a move. Don't force me to hit my husband. Yan Yan's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Yang Dingtian looked at Yan Yan and said, I've decided. I want to learn the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Yan Yan was shocked and said, Yang Dingtian, we don't have time for you to take risks. You also don't have the right to take risks. No, definitely not. I must. Yang Dingtian spoke each word with determination. Yan Yan's face changed. She tried to suppress her anger and said gently, be good and listen to me. Go and learn the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword. I'm your wife. I'm still counting on you to protect me. Husband. The last word, husband, was so gentle and coquettish that half of Yang Dingtian's body went numb. Yan Yan's gentle attack almost made Yang Dingtian collapse. However, he gritted his teeth and looked at Yan Yan with determination and said, Yan Yan, I've decided. At this moment, Yang Dingtian seemed to have been possessed by a ghost. Yan Yan stared at Yang Dingtian for a long time. Then, she suddenly retreated more than 10 meters. She pulled out a sharp sword and placed it on her neck. She said coldly, okay, you learn. If you learn this disaster, I'll have no hope. I might as well die like this. As long as you inject your profound qi, I'll die in front of you. I, Yan Yan, have always been very fierce. However, after meeting a bastard like you, I have to swallow my anger. Yan Yan said coldly, do you think I don't dare? As long as you inject your profound qi, I'll slit my throat. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. Yan Yan was so stubborn and determined. He was completely at his wit's end. Of course, he couldn't let Yan Yan slit her throat. Could it be that he had to give up on this pig-killing swordsmanship that he longed for so much? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, Yen Yen, I feel that this thing is destined to be given to me by the heavens. Of course, maybe a lot of people also feel this way. In the end, they all became trash. That's right. I chose this pig-killing swordsmanship because it was a huge risk. Yang Dingtian said, but, I came to this world because it was a huge risk. It's an almost impossible risk. Sorry, you can't convince me. Yen Yen said, I'll give you two choices. Put down the secret book and follow me. Or, I'll slit my throat and let my blood spray directly on your face. There's a secret that I didn't tell anyone except my master, including your father. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and slowly said, I came to this world because it was an impossible risk. I'm not a person of this world. What? Yen Yen suddenly cried out in shock. I'm not a person of this world. I came from another world. It's a world that's completely different from the primal chaos continent. It's a world that's completely bizarre in your eyes. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, of course, in that world, there's absolutely no girl as beautiful as you. Impossible. Yen Yen's expression suddenly became incomparably shocked. Her beautiful eyes opened wide. I came from another world, so I want to learn the pig-killing swordsmanship. Yang Dingtian slowly said, I want to take this risk. I want to protect you. I want to complete your father's mission. While speaking, Yang Dingtian injected his internal force into the secret book. Yen Yen just stared blankly at Yang Dingtian. Of course, she didn't slit her throat. Then, something unimaginable happened. When Yang Dingtian injected his internal force into this pig-killing swordsmanship, lines appeared on the secret book. Then, the secret book turned into ashes inch by inch. Pig-killing swordsmanship. The lines on the secret book were more dazzling and wonderful than any of the secret books that he had seen before. The entire secret book disappeared inch by inch. Finally, the entire secret book was completely annihilated in Yang Dingtian's hands and completely disappeared from this world. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and slowly floated in the air. Circles of light were born and circled around Yang Dingtian's body. Finally, the mysterious circles of light completely wrapped Yang Dingtian, just like a baby in his mother's belly. Countless rays of light shot into Yang Dingtian's body. Looking at all this, Yen Yen was completely stunned. Chapter 39. Yen Yen had never seen such a scene. There had never been a secret manual that would completely disappear after learning it, and there had never been a secret manual that could only be learned by one person. But the pig-killing swordsmanship in front of her had truly become Yang Dingtian's martial skill secret manual. Boom, Yang Dingtian only felt a flash of light in his mind, and suddenly he was in a void illusion. A platform carved out of white jade floated in the sea of clouds, like a fairyland. Yang Dingtian was standing in the middle of this jade stone platform. Yang Dingtian was instantly astonished. How could the learning of martial arts be so mysterious? Who? A gust of wind blew, and the white clouds quickly condensed into a figure. The illusory figure, whose appearance could not be seen clearly, moved with the wind, changing and formless. It's been 10,000 years. Finally, someone came in. That figure sighed, sounding incomparably ancient. Yang Dingtian suppressed his excitement, stepped forward and saluted, Yang Dingtian greets senior. The figure formed by the clouds glanced at Yang Dingtian, and then quickly approached. A cloud of smoke surrounded Yang Dingtian. Boundless world, no phase, no limit, it's actually someone from another plane world who learned my sword art, interesting, interesting. That figure laughed heartily. Immediately after, a surge of chi energy drilled into Yang Dingtian's body and circulated once. 9 yang profound veins, 1 in a billion, good, good. The figure laughed, you are Yang Dingtian? My name is Shuwu Piaoyan, the writer of the pig-killing swordsmanship. Before learning the first stage of the pig-killing swordsmanship, I first want to tell you something. Yes, senior. Yang Dingtian sat down cross-legged. More than 10,000 years ago, the legendary end of the world was about to come, but no one in the world believed it, because at that time, the entire chaotic continent was at the strongest moment of martial arts. As for me, I gradually discovered many clues. Some races suddenly disappeared, and in the depths of the distant sea, an incomparably huge continent suddenly appeared, and stars constantly fell from the sky. Thus, I gave up on my dream of becoming the most powerful person in the world. He roamed the world and traveled 100,000 miles. He wanted to find the source of the apocalypse and save the entire primal chaos continent. But as I walked further and further, I felt that the end of the world was getting closer and closer. The aura of the world's destruction was getting stronger and stronger. I could feel the lack of time. I'm afraid that I won't be able to complete this mission. I need someone to carry on my mission. If I fail in the future, that person can continue to follow in my footsteps and find the source of the apocalypse. Thus, as I continued to walk forward, I separated a portion of my profound energy and soul to write this secret manual, the pig-slaying sword technique. When I was searching for the Naga in the depths of the northernmost secret sea, I wrote the first step of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. As for where I will choose to write the second chapter, and whether I have found the Naga, I can only tell you the answer in the second chapter. According to legend, the Naga race was born from the mating of a dragon and a sea snake. In this world, the race closest to the bloodline of the dragon god was the strongest race in the world. Although there had been legends of the Naga race for thousands of years, and everyone knew the existence of the Naga race, no one had ever seen the Naga race. Dongfang Minmi had traveled all over the world, but he had never seen any traces of the Naga race. Because looking for the source of the apocalypse requires the strongest person in the world to follow in my footsteps, when I wrote this secret manual, I set that only the strongest Shen veins can enter the secret manual to practice. But I didn't expect that I would wait for more than 10,000 years before the person who practiced it came. Yang Dingtian, are you willing to follow in my footsteps, find the source of the apocalypse, and find a way to save the entire primal chaos continent? Shiwu Piaoyan asked slowly. I am willing. Yang Dingtian said, but the apocalypse has already happened. 10,000 years ago, the world was destroyed. It has been destroyed? Shiwu Piaoyan's shadow trembled and almost scattered. It was destroyed, it really was destroyed. Shiwu Piaoyan sighed and said, how did it die? Yang Dingtian said, the world changed, the ocean became mountains, and the mountains became the ocean. The earth fell, the rivers disappeared, and the world was turned upside down. Thousands of years after the apocalypse, the surviving human beings began to reproduce again. Relying on the martial arts scroll left from ancient times, they developed the martial arts civilization again. Shiwu Piaoyan sighed for a long time and said, you haven't found the source of the apocalypse yet, have you? No. Yang Dingtian said, no one is even looking for it. Then you go and find it. Shiwu Piaoyan said, when you are strong enough, you will follow in my footsteps to find the source of the apocalypse. Only then can I rest in peace. Yes, Senior Shiwu. Yang Dingtian said, but I have many missions now. I need to wait until all my missions are completed before I can find the source of the apocalypse. Of course, before you become a martial sage, you can't follow in my footsteps to find the source of the apocalypse. You can't even pass through the whirling knot, Shiwu Piaoyan said. After Yang Dingtian finished listening, he felt that there was an additional mission on his body. Then let's start learning the first stage of the pig-killing swordsmanship, the Shiwu 9 Disasters Sword. Hearing the name of this sword technique, Yang Dingtian's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but ask, Senior Shiwu, is this Shiwu 9 Disasters Sword powerful? Shiwu Piaoyan was stunned, and then said lightly, the best in the world. Yang Dingtian's body trembled violently, and the blood in his body seemed to surge violently. Now, I will start the first Shiwu 9 Disasters Sword. Suddenly, the smoke figure twisted a shadow sword in his hand and gently swung it. The first disaster, Sword of the World. Whoosh! Shiwu Piaoyan's figure was like a red-crowned crane, moving around in the space. The sword light was blurred, and his steps were as elegant as an immortal's. The second disaster, Sword of All Lives. The third disaster, sword of ruthlessness. The fourth disaster, sword of ecstasy. The fifth disaster, sword of boundless. The sixth disaster, sword of selflessness. The seventh disaster, sword of great mercy. The eighth disaster, sword of nirvana. The ninth disaster, sword of iniquity. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Endless swords and endless shadows. Within 1,000 meters, Shi Wupiaoyan's shadows were all over. Every move, every style, left an afterimage in the air. In the entire space, thousands of afterimages condensed in the air. It was magnificent and shocking. Connecting these thousands of shadows together was the complete Shiwu 9 Disasters sword, the best sword technique in the world. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was completely immersed in this incomparably mysterious and powerful sword technique. This was indeed the best sword technique in the world. Every move was so mysterious, so gorgeous, and so terrifying. It was as if every move exhausted all the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, and every move burned out all the brilliance. It was as if this was not a person performing a sword dance, but an immortal performing a sword dance. The dance represented the vicissitudes of the human world and the disasters of heaven and earth. It was indeed the best sword technique in the world. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, these thousands of afterimages turned into ashes and condensed into Shi Wupiaoyan. Do you remember it? Shi Wupiaoyan asked. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and fell into memory. He let the whole Shiwu 9 Disasters sword replay in his mind, over and over again, and then seemed to be engraved in his mind. Yes, Senior, Yang Dingtian said. Shi Wupiaoyan said, well, I'll do it again. After that, Shi Wupiaoyan floated in the air and performed the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword again. Another amazing and mysterious scene made Yang Dingtian indulge in it again, as if he was admiring the sword dance of an immortal. Putting away his sword, Shi Wupiaoyan asked, do you remember it? Yang Dingtian fell into deep thought again, recalling the moves just now in his mind. Although it was more difficult than before, he still remembered it. How do you feel? Shi Wupiaoyan asked. It seems that it's different from the first time. The movements are simplified and changed a little, Yang Dingtian said. Very good. Shi Wupiaoyan smiled and said, then I'll do it a third time. Next, the fourth time. The fifth time. The sixth time. After the eighth time, Shi Wupiaoyan asked, now, do you remember it? Yang Dingtian's face became extremely painful. Finally, he shook his head and said, I can't remember it because it's different every time. There are even some movements that are completely opposite. Then what do you feel? What's the impression? Shi Wupiaoyan asked. Yang Dingtian said, it's simpler and uglier each time. Shi Wupiaoyan laughed and said, well, then you can watch it for the 9th time, which is also the last time. Then, Shi Wupiaoyan swung the shadow sword in his hand and performed the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword for the 9th time. The sword stabbed straight out. The first move, piercing the throat and letting out blood. Then, the sword slashed. The second move, cutting open the stomach. Then, the sword slashed down. The third move, cutting off the head. Then, the sword turned. The fourth move, digging out the heart and lungs. Then, the sword shook violently and moved forward like a snake. The fifth move, cleaning the stomach. Then, the light flashed and the sword slashed 4 times from different angles. The sixth move, chopping off the limbs. Then, the sword fell from above and slashed vertically. The seventh move, splitting into 2 pieces. Then, he swung his sword horizontally and horizontally. The eighth move, scraping the bones and meat. Finally, the long sword pierced downwards, once. The 9th move, putting the sword into the chopping board. Soon, Shi Wupiaoyan finished demonstrating the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword for the 9th time. At this time, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. He stood there with his eyes wide open, motionless. From the first to the 9th time. He watched helplessly as the incomparably gorgeous, incomparably complex, and incomparably mysterious Shiwu 9 Disasters sword became the final pig-killing swordsmanship. The 9 Tao tribulations had become the 9 steps of slaughtering a pig. From so gorgeous to so vulgar, from so complex to so simple, from so high-end to so cheap. From an immortal to a butcher. How do you feel? Shiwu Piaoyan laughed. Yang Dingtian still hadn't calmed down. He originally thought that the pig-killing swordsmanship was just a name to fool people. The real name was the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword, which sounded very mysterious. But he didn't expect that the pig-killing swordsmanship was really called the pig-killing swordsmanship. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, after learning the pig-killing swordsmanship, there will be no sword in the world. Well said. Shiwu Piaoyan laughed and said, after learning the pig-killing swordsmanship, there will be no sword in the world. Then, Shiwu Piaoyan said, if it was directly the pig-killing swordsmanship, it would be vulgar and not wonderful at all. But from the complicated and mysterious Shiwu 9 Disasters sword to the pig-killing swordsmanship step by step, its power is infinite and incomparably powerful. When the martial arts in the world reach the extreme, it is to simplify and return to simplicity. It is as if you can only truly enjoy simplicity after experiencing prosperity. Only when you have experienced magnificence can you have the right to be low-key. After hearing this, Yang Dingtian deeply saluted. This was not only the truth of martial arts, but also the philosophy of the world. Then Shiwu Piaoyan said, now, try to use this set of Shiwu 9 Disasters sword again and again. Follow your feelings and let your Xian Qi spread with your feelings. Let me see what your talent is, what your comprehension is, and what amazing power this set of swordsmanship will have on you. Yes, senior. Yang Dingtian said. Then he stretched out his right hand, and suddenly a virtual sword slowly appeared in his hand. Taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, Yang Dingtian entered the world of the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword. Whoosh! The sword light flashed, and a strong wind blew. Chapter 40. In an instant, Yang Dingtian completely entered the world of the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword. His whole heart, his whole spirit, completely entered this deeper sword world. First tribulation, sword of Advent. Yang Dingtian fell from the sky, and the sword was like a meteor, stabbing into the hard ground. Bang! A profound chi force shot out, and a white jade slate suddenly shattered and shot in all directions. The sword light was drawn, and the brilliance was overflowing, like the Milky Way. It slashed through the splashing stones. Boom! In an instant, countless flying stones shattered into pieces and turned into powder. Second tribulation, sword of all lives. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the long sword trembled, and the tip of the sword shot out quickly. Countless rays of light seemed to be densely packed with stars. In an instant, dozens of swords, hundreds of swords. More than 100 cold stars flickered. Whoosh! The sword light drew a circle and condensed the 100 cold stars. Countless cold stars condensed into a thick sword light, striking down like lightning. Boom! The whole ground suddenly exploded. Countless jade stones flew everywhere. Third tribulation, sword of ruthlessness, whoosh! The cold light circled, and the sword shadow was looming in an instant. It was as if it had not arrived yet, and it was unknown where the sword shadow was. Suddenly, a cold light burst out, as bright as a star. Swish! The sword light flashed. Bang bang bang! The air was torn apart inch by inch. The head of the stone lion in the distance was silently cut off. The sword of ruthlessness was neither close nor distant. If the shadow reappeared, it was ruthless and cold. Fourth tribulation, sword of ecstasy. The air flowed, and the sword shadow instantly turned graceful, straight and curved, cold and soft. The sound of the sword was like weeping and complaining. The figure holding the sword was like a lone goose, like spiraling smoke. It wandered unpredictably, circling around. It was gentle like water, curling like smoke. Whoosh! Suddenly, this gentle sword rainbow turned into a fierce ecstasy lock in an instant. Kill, kill, kill. Destroy, destroy, destroy. The sword's shadow faded, and the dust settled. The surroundings had been turned into powder. Fifth tribulation, sword of boundless. The heart was boundless, the sword was boundless. He thought that if he was the enemy, his murderous aura filled the air. There was nothing he couldn't kill and nothing he couldn't destroy. The sixth tribulation, selfless sword. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Without me, where would the sword go? If the heavens were heartless, why would I exist? The seventh tribulation, sword of great mercy. Victory is sorrow, defeat is sorrow. Life is sad, death is sad. The sorrowful sword breaks the intestines, each sword breaks the human soul. The eighth tribulation, sword of nirvana. Heaven and earth were destroyed. Life is short, but there are things to ask for and things to return to. What was there to be afraid of? At worst, heaven and earth would destroy him. The ninth tribulation, innocuous sword. There was nothing to be sad about. The limit of fear did not matter. At the end of the calamity, there is no sorrow, no joy, no fear, no calamity. He sheathed his sword and stood there. For a long time, Yang Dingtian's body and soul were unable to break free. Whoosh! Suddenly, the smoke that had been surrounding Yang Dingtian suddenly dissipated. It fell to the ground and condensed into Shiwu Piaoyan's figure. At this time, the whole ground was a mess. Hundreds of meters and thousands of meters of the suspended platform were all destroyed by Yang Dingtian's sword. Wake up! Shiwu Piaoyan shouted softly. Yang Dingtian's eyes gradually changed from blurred to sober. Looking at the messy mirror image around him, he showed an incredible expression. What happened just now? How come I don't know at all? I don't remember at all. How do you feel? Shiwu Piaoyan asked. It feels like a lifetime ago, Yang Dingtian said, such exquisite swordsmanship, I have never seen or heard of it. After the pig-slaying swordsmanship, there is no sword in the world. But what? Shiwu Piaoyan asked. But the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword I use seems to be different from the one you demonstrated, Yang Dingtian said. It doesn't need to be the same, Shiwu Piaoyan said, the sword is not fixed. If the person is different, the sword will be different. Otherwise, it will be a dead sword. The Shiwu 9 Disasters sword pursues the spirit, not the form. Then, Shiwu Piaoyan said, do you want to hear my evaluation of you? Please. Yang Dingtian said. Your talent is unseen and unheard of, Shiwu Piaoyan said. Just now, when you used the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword for the first time, it made people feel a deep sense of despair. But this is not only because of your talent, but also because of your joy and anger, your gratitude and resentment. You have experienced so many things at such a young age, so your sword is full of endless stories and has become incomparably distant and profound. But what? Yang Dingtian asked. If you put your mind too much into it, it will easily hurt others and yourself. You should know that this Shiwu 9 Disasters sword is the most complicated, the most profound, the most gorgeous, and the most mysterious. However, the ultimate goal is to return to the original, to return to the vulgar and elegant pig-killing swordsmanship. Therefore, don't try too hard. If you try too hard, your fate will end early. What should be emptied will be emptied. Shiwu Piaoyan said slowly. Yang Dingtian suddenly fell into deep thought. After a long time, he said, Senior, although there are many things that I can't do now, I will understand your words. Now, do I need to practice it a second time? Shiwu Piaoyan shook his head and said, no need. Such a sword technique can be learned once in the secret book. Learn as much as you can. After leaving the illusory void, you can comprehend it by yourself. How do you feel at this time? Yang Dingtian said, there is a vigorous energy, as if it is about to burst out. Shiwu Piaoyan said, any secret book in the world contains the pure vitality energy of the writer. The first time you learn it, you can clean your Xian meridians, absorb the Xian qi between heaven and earth, and expand your Xian meridians and Sea of Qi. Therefore, when you learn martial arts for the first time, you will have a breakthrough. Ordinary secret books can break through 1 star, and excellent secret books can break through 2 stars. With the mystery of the pig-killing swordsmanship and your talent, you can break through 4 stars. When you return to reality, your Sea of Qi will have a powerful breakthrough. At that time, you will be a 4-star novice martial artist, or even higher. Really? Yang Dingtian was ecstatic. Of course it's true, said Shiwu Piaoyan. However, you only have one chance like this. Only once in your life. Yang Dingtian said hopefully, then in half a month, can I break through to become a 6-star Xian martial artist? Shiwu Piaoyan was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head and said, impossible. Martial arts 10,000 years ago were much more prosperous than now, but it was impossible. Even a peerless genius needed 3 months to go from an enlightener to a 6-star Xian martial artist. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt a chill in his heart. The person in front of him was not a grand master, but an extremely powerful saint from 10,000 years ago. If he said no, then there was really no possibility of change. There is no possibility. It has never happened in tens of thousands of years. Yang Dingtian was full of unwillingness. There is no possibility. This completely violates the greatest theorem of the human body and nature, Shiwu Piaoyan said. Yang Dingtian let out a breath of air forcefully. By the way, what day is it today? Shiwu Piaoyan suddenly asked. Double calendar, September 1st, Yang Dingtian said. Is it heaven's will? Shiwu Piaoyan was stunned and muttered to himself. Yang Dingtian's heart suddenly jumped. Is there hope? Senior Shiwu. Shiwu Piaoyan said, in 12 days, September 13th, it will be the Yinyang festival that occurs once every 300 years. At that time, the 2 moons will cover the 2 suns, and the world will be pitch black. At that moment, Yin and Yang will blend, and the Xian Qi between heaven and earth will suddenly become incomparably pure. You know, warriors in the world can only absorb Xian Qi every morning because the Xian Qi at this time is relatively pure. But even so, after swallowing 10 buckets of Xian Qi, there will be less than 1% left. This is because Yin and Yang coexist, and the Xian Qi is not pure. If you swallow too much, your life will be in danger. But at the moment of the Yinyang festival, the Xian Qi between heaven and earth will be instantly purified. At this stage, the Xian Qi can be absorbed for one's own use almost without refining or eliminating it. Therefore, the effect of swallowing Xian Qi at that moment is 100 times better than usual. Yang Dingtian asked, at that time, can I break through to a 6-star Xian martial artist? Of course not. Shiwu Piaoyan said, although the effect of swallowing Xian Qi is 100 times better than usual, after all, the time is too short. It's almost instantaneous. Therefore, we still need to organize a large formation. This formation is called the Yin-Yang 5 Elements Formation. Have you heard of it? Never heard of it. Yang Dingtian, not only Yang Dingtian, but Dongfang Minmi had never heard of it, so it must have been lost during the Great Nirvana. When a person swallows Xian Qi, he can only absorb Xian Qi within 10 feet at most. As for the Yin-Yang 5 Elements Formation, it can swallow Xian Qi within a few miles, or it can swallow Xian Qi within dozens of miles or hundreds of miles, Shiwu Piaoyan said. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's blood boiled. He needed to break through to a 6-star Xian martial artist on September 15th, and 13 days later, there would be a once in 300 years total solar eclipse in the Yin-Yang realm. Wasn't this fate? Then, I can break through to a 6-star Xian martial artist at that time, right? Yang Dingtian asked. Maybe, but it's also very difficult. Shiwu Piaoyan said, in my era, there was someone who used the Yin-Yang 5 Elements Formation on the Yin-Yang festival and broke through to the 13th level. In the end, he became the strongest person in the world. Your talent is amazing, but reaching the 16th level is too amazing. Yang Dingtian said excitedly, even if there is a little hope, I will do my best. Senior, can you tell me what to do? How should I arrange this yin-yang 5 elements formation? Shiwu Piaoyan said, you need to find a circular plot of land. This circle is half yin and half yang. There is yang in yin and yin in yang, but they are clearly separated. Then, arrange a pentagram in this circle, and put the demon nuclei of the 5 elements in the 5 corners. Lightning on the top, ice and fire on the left, and metal and wind on the bottom. In this way, you can arrange the yin-yang 5 elements formation. The stronger the formation, the more xian qi it can condense. You are in the eye of the formation, and when the 2 moons cover the 2 suns, endless xian qi energy will pour into your body from the top of your head. At this time, the energy is incomparably pure and can directly enter your sea of qi for your own use. At that time, you only need to run the unique xian swallowing formula of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, and you can refine the xian qi into your sea of qi. I will remember, Senior, Yang Dingtian said excitedly. Remember, the demon nuclei of the 5 elements must be obtained by hunting the demon beasts with your own hands. You can't borrow the hands of others. Because the moment before the demon beasts die, they will instill your energy, aura, and impression into the demon nuclei. If you don't hunt the demon nuclei with your own hands, the formation will not be compatible with you, and the consequences will be unimaginable. The endless xian qi will tear you to pieces in an instant. I will remember, Senior, Yang Dingtian said. Well, then you can go out and return to your real world. A long time should have passed. I am going to disappear too. Shiwu Piaoyan said. Suddenly, a cool feeling poured into the top of his head. Yang Dingtian gradually woke up and returned to reality. Chapter 41. Wait. Suddenly, Shiwu Piaoyan said. Yang Dingtian's figure stopped abruptly. There was darkness in front of him, and he could only see the figure of Shiwu Piaoyan formed by a white light. There is a way that may allow you to have a greater breakthrough, but I can't guarantee that it will succeed. Shiwu Piaoyan said. Senior, please tell me. Yang Dingtian said. Empty body and empty meridians. Shiwu Piaoyan said, a martial artist practices martial arts for 12 hours a day and practices qi for 2 hours. Practicing martial arts can increase the capacity of the xian meridians and sea of qi. Practicing qi can fill in the space for these increases. Over time, you can achieve a breakthrough. On the day of the yin-yang festival, if the formation is big enough and strong enough, you may have a very strong and vigorous xian qi. How much you can have a breakthrough is determined by the rate of absorption of your xian meridians and sea of qi. In a short period of time, how much xian qi can be swallowed is how much you can have a breakthrough. Then, if you want to have enough space in your sea of qi and xian meridians, you need to forge your body and forge your meridians. Shiwu Piaoyan said, you keep practicing the sword, but you don't practice qi. First, I will lock your meridians, not letting any xian qi enter, suppressing the desire of your sea of qi to break through, so that your sea of qi and xian meridians are fully empty. At that time, you can swallow the most xian qi and get a greater breakthrough. In this way, you may have a greater chance of breaking through to a 6-star xian martial artist. Shiwu Piaoyan said, of course, this is just a prediction of mine. It may not become a reality. Yang Dingtian thought for a while and said, then do it this way. It's good to have a little more hope. Whoosh whoosh. 2 rays of light suddenly drilled into the top of Yang Dingtian's head. He only felt that his xian meridians were stagnant, and then his whole body seemed to be floating. You can unlock the seal of this meridians at any time. If you don't unlock it, then at the moment of the total solar eclipse, endless xian qi will pour into your body and automatically break it open. Shiwu Piaoyan said. Yes, Senior. Yang Dingtian, then, to what extent should I practice the sword to make my xian meridians and sea of qi reach the peak? The ultimate is, of course, when you can use the highest level of the Shiwu 9 Disasters sword, the pig-slaying swordsmanship. At that time, you will be able to unleash the full power of this sword technique. Shiwu Piaoyan said, but that's too difficult. You need to practice the sword tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of times. You don't have much time, so you can practice the sword 10,000 times at most. You can reach whatever level you want. Because in the following time, you will personally hunt for the 5 types of demon nuclei and find a suitable place to set up the formation. Yes, senior. Practice the sword 10,000 times. Whatever level you can reach, that is, Yang Dingtian said. Then, goodbye. See you at the second stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, Shiwu Piaoyan said. Then, his figure disappeared bit by bit. I hope I can tell you more by then. Remember, don't tell anyone my secret. Then, Shiwu Piaoyan's figure disappeared completely. Yang Dingtian slowly opened his eyes as if he had just woken up from a dream. He saw that Yan Yan was sleeping on the ground at this time. Her plump and charming body was curled up like an insecure little beast. She had fallen asleep. He didn't know how much time had passed. Yang Dingtian stepped forward and gently pushed Yan Yan's shoulder. Who is it? Yan Yan was shocked. She suddenly opened her beautiful eyes and quickly placed her sword on Yang Dingtian's neck. Why are you sleeping here? Yang Dingtian asked. You stayed in the light circle for a whole day and night, motionless. Where else would I sleep if not here? Yan Yan got up and said. A whole day and night? Yang Dingtian said in surprise, I feel like it's only been a while. Yan Yan's beautiful eyes were full of expectation and worry as she looked at Yang Dingtian. She seemed to want to see if Yang Dingtian was different from before. She said, ordinary secret techniques take at most 3 hours to learn for the first time. You actually took a whole day and night. This set of pig-killing swordsmanship must be extraordinary. Have you learned it? I learned the first stage of pig-killing swordsmanship, Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword. Yang Dingtian said. Hearing this awe-inspiring name, Yan Yan's beautiful eyes tightened. She said, why don't you show it to me? Let's see how powerful it is. Okay. Yang Dingtian stretched out his hand. Let me borrow your sword. Yan Yan suddenly remembered that Yang Dingtian didn't have a sword yet. She immediately handed her sword over. After taking the sword, Yang Dingtian slowly closed his eyes and slowly breathed in and out. When he opened his eyes again, he gently pulled out a sword flower and pinched a sword technique. Suddenly, his heart and spirit entered the world of Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the sword light was like a rainbow, and the sword whistled like a tide. In this abandoned secret book room, Yang Dingtian used Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword. The first tribulation, Sword of Descent. The second tribulation, Sword of Life. The third tribulation, Sword of Ruthlessness. The eighth tribulation, Sword of Nirvana. The ninth tribulation, Sword of Non-Tribulation. Suddenly, the dark secret room seemed to have entered another world. Boundless sword shadows, boundless flowing colors. The sword blade was as cold as water, weaving a mysterious picture scroll in this space. 6 minutes later, Yang Dingtian put away his sword and stood. Although this was not as perfect as he was in the illusory environment, he was already satisfied. He felt that he played very well. Then, he looked at Yan Yan with expectation. Yan Yan's beautiful eyes were blurred and full of splendor. She said, This is Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword? I have never seen such a beautiful and wonderful sword technique. Then, Yan Yan seemed to think of something, and her face suddenly turned pale. She said, what about Xian Qi? When you used this set of sword technique, why didn't I feel any Xian Qi? How many levels did you break through to learn this set of secret books? Suddenly, Yang Dingtian did not know how to answer. There will be breakthroughs in the beginning of any secret book in the world. When I learned Chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword for the first time, I broke through 3 levels and directly went from an enlightener to a 3-star novice martial artist. Yan Yan said, I remember, the set of sword technique you used just now was beautiful. But it was only in appearance and had no power at all. It was like a dance, not a sword technique. Now, I will let you see the real sword technique, Yan Yan said. After speaking, Yan Yan took the sword in Yang Dingtian's hand and quickly stabbed the first sword. Suddenly, it was like a rainbow piercing the sun, and like a meteor streaking across the sky. Suddenly, the air was distorted, and the sword in her hand was seeped with a trace of red, as if it was burned red. Whoosh! Then, the second sword was like a stormy sea, and the wind and clouds surged. The sword let out a dragon and tiger roar, and the air turned into a mass of red, winding around the treasured sword. Suddenly, it was as if a fire dragon was circling around the sword. Roar! The third sword was like a violent storm and a tsunami. The sword roared, and the fire dragon on the sword roared loudly, igniting and tearing the air inch by inch. The surrounding space of dozens of square meters suddenly darkened, and the whole space was swallowed by the energy array formed by the sword. On the tip of the sword, there was a dazzling light, as if it was formed by the surrounding light. Bang! Finally, the fire dragon on the sword spat out the light. Boom! The light hit the ground, and suddenly, it tore a 5-foot crack on the hard ground. Yan Yan put away the sword and said, "This is the first time I learned the power of Chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword, and it was enough to tear a 5-foot crack on the ground. And you couldn't even tear a scroll." Seeing that Yan Yan was about to flip out, Yang Dingtian hurriedly said, Don't worry. My set of sword art is different from all the secret manuals. I didn't break through now because I locked my meridians and didn't want to break through, so that my Xian meridians and Qi Si could be released, for a greater breakthrough in the future. After listening to Yang Dingtian's explanation, Yan Yan stared at him with her beautiful eyes, then shook her head and said, I've never heard of such a thing. Because this is pig-killing sword art, and it's different from all the other sword arts. Yang Dingtian said. I only saw that you didn't break through when you learned this set of sword art. Yan Yan slightly frowned and said, Then tell me, when can you break through, and how much can you break through? 12 days later, on the 13th of September, Yin Yang Festival. Yang Dingtian said, I don't know how much I can break through. Are you kidding? Yang Dingtian. Yan Yan immediately said unhappily, Why don't you say that you can break through on the 15th of September during the elimination battle? Because that day is very special. It's the Yin Yang Festival, so the breakthrough will be discovered on that day. I have no intention of delaying it. Yang Dingtian said firmly. You're my husband, so of course I'm willing to believe you. But the reality is that I don't see any Xian Qi in your sword art, and there's no breakthrough at all. Yan Yan tried her best to be gentle and said, I'm afraid that you'll get lost and fall into your own illusion. It's obviously a set of sword art that looks like a woman's dance, but you treat it as a peerless sword art and are unable to extricate yourself from it. If that's the case, we'll really be finished. Husband, I'm afraid because I suddenly thought of someone. Yan Yan's beautiful eyes trembled as she recalled a terrifying memory. Then, Yan Yan continued, his name is Yang Yuncheng, the eldest son of Yang Li's grandfather. Originally, my father wouldn't have had the chance to become Cloud Sky City's lord. Yang Yuncheng's talent is even higher than my father's, and he's number 1 in the entire Northwest continent. Everyone thought that he would become the strongest Cloud Sky City's lord in history. At the age of 23, he was already a martial ancestor realm expert and was famous throughout the world. However, one day, he discovered the pig-slaying swordsmanship and was immediately tempted. Then, he used the Xian dissociation pill to wash away his chaotic heaven destroyer sword, which had already reached the martial mystic realm, and started learning the pig-slaying swordsmanship from the beginning. No one could persuade him. It was as if he had completely gone mad. Then, he turned from a peerless genius to a complete waste. In the end, he went completely crazy. Thus, Cloud Sky City lost its most outstanding successor. From then on, the pig-slaying swordsmanship became a disaster. Yan Yan said with a pained expression, Just now, I was shocked by the secret you told me. When you said that you weren't from this world, I was stunned. Then, you inserted your Xian Qi into the pig-slaying swordsmanship. I wanted to stop you, but it was too late. Do you know how worried I was and how regretful I was? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and suppressed his agitated emotions. He said, he couldn't learn it because his Xian veins weren't strong enough. You don't know what I encountered in the world of the secret manual. What did you encounter? Yan Yan asked while holding back her anger. An incomparably mysterious illusory world. A very white elder taught me this incomparably powerful Nine Tribulations Void Sword. Yang Dingtian said, I can only say this much because I have to keep the other aspects a secret. I can't say more. When he said this, Yan Yan's beautiful face suddenly turned pale. She trembled and said, Yang Dingtian, what you said is exactly the same as what Yang Yinchong said back then. Then, he fell into madness. Suddenly, Yan Yan's face revealed a terrified expression. Yang Dingtian's body shook, then he shook his head and said, That's impossible. I'm the only one who truly entered the pig-slaying swordsmanship. I don't know what happened to Yang Yinchong. Maybe it was his hallucination. Whether the swordsmanship is real or fake, I'm very clear in my heart. Then, her voluptuous body gently snuggled up. She stroked Yang Dingtian's face and said with a gentleness she had never shown before, Husband, don't walk on Yang Yinchong's path. Just listen to Yan Yan this time. We'll use the profound dissociation pill to wash away this disastrous pig-slaying swordsmanship. We should learn the primal chaos heaven destroyer sword, okay? As long as you agree, no matter what you say in the future, I'll listen to you. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's body trembled. Yan Yan thought he was moved. She said tenderly, Husband, Yan Yan will rely on you in the future. Let's use the safest method, okay? Use the profound dissociation pill to wash away the pig-slaying swordsmanship. We should learn the primal chaos heaven destroyer sword. Then, I'll sleep with you and give you my Xian Qi, okay? This is a 100% success rate. Seeing Yang Dingtian's expressionless face, Yan Yan's face gradually turned cold. She said, Yang Dingtian, this is the last time I'm begging you. If you don't agree, I'll leave immediately. I won't say another word. From now on, I won't care about your matters. We'll stop here. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He said, No, I don't agree. Then, Yang Dingtian looked at her deeply and said, Shimin Yan Yan, I'm very grateful for your selflessness. But as husband and wife, I feel that mutual trust is more precious. 12 days later, I'll prove to you that my insistence is right. But if you're wrong, then you'll not only destroy yourself, but all of us. Yan Yan said coldly, then turned around and walked out. Chapter 42. Before leaving, Yan Yan couldn't help but turn back and say, Yang Dingtian, believe me. Everything you saw was just an illusion. You're walking down the same path as Yang Yinchong. As your wife, I beg you to come back and take the safe and successful path, okay? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and smiled at Yan Yan. I'm sorry. I think I'm right. Yan Yan's face suddenly turned pale. Since you chose to believe in an illusion instead of your wife, why did you choose to believe in it? From now on, we have nothing to do with each other except for the so-called husband and wife. After saying that, Yan Yan staggered and ran out of the door. Yang Dingtian gasped for breath as he tried to calm down his agitated emotions. I firmly believe that everything I've seen isn't an illusion. The path I've chosen is correct. Yang Dingtian emphasized each and every word. Then, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but ask in his heart, Master, did you see the scene of me learning swordsmanship on a floating platform? Dongfang Minmi was silent for a moment and said, I didn't see anything. Yang Dingtian's body suddenly trembled and his face turned pale. Then, Dongfang Minmi said, But I believe in your choice. I also believe in my choice, Yang Dingtian said. Then, he grasped the steel sword in his hand tightly. Shiwu Piaoyan wanted him to practice the sword 10,000 times. Time was very tight. There was no time to delay. He had to start now. Just as Yang Dingtian walked out of the hidden art pavilion and was looking for a desolate and spacious place to practice his sword, someone blocked his path. It was a tall and handsome youth who was leading a group of teenagers. You're that toad who wants to eat swan meat, the one who dreams of becoming the lord of Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian, the young man said coldly. I'm Yang Dingtian, please excuse me, said Yang Dingtian. My name is Tang Jin, Tang Buizhao's son. Tang Xian, whom you insulted yesterday, is my sister. The young man pointed at Yang Dingtian. What can I do for you? Yang Dingtian asked. A cruel smile appeared on Tang Jin's face as he said, nothing much, I'm just here to warn you. 13 days later, in the Great Elimination Battle. Not only will I kick you out of Cloud Sky City, I won't let you leave Cloud Sky City in one piece. I will treat you well and let you see clearly who is the real master of Cloud Heaven City. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. He looked deeply at Tang Jin and said, I heard it. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Then, Yang Dingtian pushed aside the two youths in front of him and left the hidden merit pavilion. Yang Dingtian, I am a one-star mystic martial warrior. 13 days later, I will make you regret coming to Cloud Sky City. Walking to the suspension bridge, Yang Dingtian heard Tang Jin's cold voice from behind him. Yang Dingtian's body froze. A one-star mystic martial warrior was 5 levels higher than his target, a 6-star mystic martial warrior. Moreover, it was a jump in rank. If he wanted to win, it would be difficult to ascend to the heavens. But what if the pig-slaying swordsmanship was really the best sword technique in the world? I'm counting on you, buddy. Yang Dingtian raised the sword in his hand and thought to himself, we're all beasts who can't turn back even if we hit a wall. Don't disappoint me. Brother Tang, why don't we break his arms and legs now? At this moment, a handsome youth on the side said. Do you want to die by attacking him in Cloud Sky City? Tang Jin said coldly. But once we leave Cloud Sky City, it's hard to say. I understand. That handsome young man smiled. In order to prove that his choice was correct, Yang Dingtian didn't sleep or rest in the following days. Every day, besides eating, he practiced the pig-slaying swordsmanship. As expected, Yen Yen didn't appear again. She didn't even look at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian practiced the pig-slaying swordsmanship all the time in a secluded area behind the mountain. He didn't even go back to eat. He brought some dry rations and hastily ate them with the spring water. Later, he didn't even eat. At first, he went back to sleep. Later, Yin Yan's maid, Luer, locked the door to his room. Yang Dingtian simply didn't go back to sleep. Every day, when he was extremely tired, he would find a random spot to sleep. He practiced the sword 10,000 times. In the beginning, he needed a full 5 minutes to complete one cycle of the 9 Tribulations sword. 10,000 cycles would take a full 50,000 minutes, which was close to 900 hours. In other words, even if he didn't sleep or rest, he would still need more than a month. This was impossible. Yang Dingtian didn't have that much time. No, there must be some progress to simplify the 9 Tribulations sword. Yang Dingtian desperately tried to recall how Shuwu Piaoyan returned to simplicity step by step on the suspended void platform. Dozens of times, 100 times, 200 times. A whole day passed, and Yang Dingtian didn't make any progress. It was still that incomparably complicated and incomparably gorgeous Shuwu 9 Tribulations sword. It still needed 5 minutes. Yang Dingtian stopped, looked up at the night sky, and said, Master, why is it like this? Child, you are carrying too much. You are exerting too much force. Dongfang Minmi said, empty yourself first. I will teach you a set of formless heart sutra. It can let you completely enter a state of selflessness. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath, looked at the pool below, and jumped in. A cool feeling suddenly spread throughout his body. Then, under the guidance of Dongfang Minmi, Yang Dingtian began to learn the Formless Heart Sutra. Suddenly, it was as if a force suddenly grabbed everything from his mind. At first, it grabbed his unwillingness. Then, it grabbed his anger. Then, it grabbed his memories. Finally, it even grabbed the Shuwu 9 Tribulations sword that he was madly practicing. Now, you go and practice the sword again. Don't count the time, don't count the number of times, just practice like this." Suddenly, Yang Dingtian jumped out of the water and stabbed the first sword of the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword, the Sword of Advent. "Master, from now on, I will enter a state of selflessness and practice the sword like a madman. Wake me up when I have practiced it 10,000 times. If it is less than 10,000 times, no matter how much time has passed, don't wake me up. Go forward, regardless of the consequences. I am a beast that is madly moving forward." Ho ho ho. Yang Dingtian rushed out of the water, the sword in his hand like the wind. A few hours later, he suddenly entered the second level of the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword. It only took 2 minutes to practice 9 moves. The next day, Yang Dingtian was still in the second level. It still took 2 minutes to practice 9 moves. On this day, he didn't sleep or rest and practiced the sword 700 times. On the third day, he suddenly entered the third level of the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword. It only took him a minute and a half to practice the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword. On this day, he not only didn't sleep or rest, but also didn't eat a bite. He practiced the sword 1,000 times. On the fourth day, he didn't make any progress. It still took him a minute and a half to practice the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword. He was still in the third level, practicing the sword 1,000 times. At this time, he had practiced the sword 3,000 times. There were still 7,000 times left. And there were less than 8 days before the Yin-Yang festival and the total solar eclipse. He didn't hunt a single demon nucleus, nor did he find the Yin-Yang place to set up the array. On the fifth day, he still didn't make any progress. On this day, he was still in the third level of the Shiwu 9 Tribulations sword. At this speed, the Yin-Yang festival and the total solar eclipse would be over by the time he practiced the sword 10,000 times. At this time, Yang Dingtian had completely entered a state of selflessness. He completely forgot the time, forgot everything around him, forgot the Yin-Yang festival a few days later, forgot the Yin-Yang 5 elements formation, forgot the elimination battle 9 days later. After 5 days and 5 nights without rest, Yang Dingtian's clothes were already ragged, his hair and beard were long, and his face was haggard, like a beggar. About the third day, someone accidentally found Yang Dingtian practicing the sword crazily. Seeing him practicing the pig-slaying swordsmanship over and over again, that person quickly ran to Cloud Sky City and wantonly spread the news. At this time, it was the third level of the 9 Tribulations sword, and it was already very ugly. Yang Dingtian's third level of the 9 Tribulations sword gave people a strange feeling. That idiot who wants to be the city lord is crazy. He actually treats the pig-slaying swordsmanship like a treasure, practicing it over and over again. I've seen it no less than 1,000 times, and the more he practiced, the uglier it became. Then, more and more people went to the back of the mountain to watch Yang Dingtian practice the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Seeing the sword technique that looked more and more like a pig slaughtering action, everyone suddenly laughed until their stomachs hurt. City Lord Yang Dingtian, your pig-slaying swordsmanship is so powerful. I feel relaxed and happy watching it. Can I worship you as my master? Yang Dingtian had already entered a state of madness and turned a deaf ear to the ridicule of others. Suddenly, everyone's ridicule became even more intense. Later, many children ran over to watch and threw dirt at Yang Dingtian. But to the higher-ups of Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian's crazy behavior made them think of one person. Yang Yunchong, the genius who had amazing talent, but after learning the pig-slaying swordsmanship, he went completely crazy. Someone saw Yang Dingtian enter the rankless secret manual room, and the swordsmanship he practiced was as strange as those crazy people. So, everyone thought that Yang Dingtian chose the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Yang Dingtian went crazy. Under unparalleled pressure, he chose the pig-slaying swordsmanship, and then he went crazy. Everyone in Cloud Sky City was jeering. What a pitiful person. He would be an outstanding disciple anywhere else. Why did he come to Cloud Sky City? Great Elder Yang Yen sneered. Everyone in Cloud Sky City, including those within 100 miles, quickly knew one thing. Yang Dingtian went crazy. Just like Yang Yinchong, he went crazy. At this time, night had already fallen. Yang Dingtian was still practicing his swordsmanship crazily. In just a few days, his beard had grown to half a finger's length, and his hair was like weeds. His original appearance was completely unrecognizable. The clothes on his body had long been torn into strips and were covered with dirt. He really looked like a beggar. At this time, the people who were watching and throwing rocks at him had already gone back to sleep. Under the moonlight, Yang Dingtian practiced his swordsmanship crazily. Who? Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's figure changed. Whoosh 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 whoosh. His swordsmanship became incomparably sharp and fast. Without warning, he entered the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. It only took 30 seconds to finish practicing one round of the 9 tribulations sword. In an hour, he could practice 120 times. At this speed, the remaining 6,000 times would take 50 hours. 2 days would be enough. 2 days later, there were less than 5 days before the total solar eclipse. He needed to hunt for 5 types of demon nuclei and find the place to set up the array within these 5 days. However, only 2 hours later. Without warning, Yang Dingtian instantly entered the 5th stage of the Shuwu 9 tribulations sword. Suddenly, the swordsmanship completely changed. All the elegance, all the magnificence, all the mystery, all disappeared. All the moves instantly became vulgar and direct. At this time, the Shuwu 9 tribulations sword underwent a qualitative change. It directly crossed the dividing line from the Shuwu 9 tribulations sword to the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Of course, the highest level of the pig-slaying swordsmanship was the 9th stage. But from the 5th stage onwards, it could be called the pig-slaying swordsmanship. The 5th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, because the moves were direct and short, only took 12 seconds to practice. In an hour, Yang Dingtian could practice the sword 300 times. He thought it would be over. But what he didn't expect was that more than 3 hours later, Yang Dingtian's swordsmanship changed again. The swordsmanship became more vulgar, more direct, and faster. The 9 moves of the pig-slaying swordsmanship only took 9 seconds. 1 hour could practice the sword 400 times. A few hours later, the sun shone. Yang Dingtian's body was in a mess, completely like a savage. The steel sword in his hand was completely damaged and full of gaps. Yang Dingtian's swordsmanship had entered the extreme ugly and vulgar. Child, it's 10,000 times. Suddenly, Dongfang Minmi said. Yang Dingtian was shocked and woke up in an instant. Who? Suddenly, his wrists were hot, his limbs were hot, the back of his head was hot, and his whole body was hot. Boom! The depths of the sea of qi seemed to swell violently. Boom! In an instant, the whole body's Xian meridians suddenly exploded, and the whole body seemed to fly into the air. In the body, there seemed to be countless flames burning. All the Xian meridians and the fiery sea of qi desperately and incomparably hungry to devour the Xian qi all over the sky. Yang Dingtian had completely woken up. 10,001st times. After waking up, Yang Dingtian used all his strength and all his emotions and waved the steel sword in his hand. The last time he practiced the pig-slaying swordsmanship. The first move, piercing the throat and letting out blood. The second move, cutting open the stomach. The third move, cutting off the head. The fourth move, digging out the heart and lungs. The fifth move, cleaning the stomach. The sixth move, chopping off the limbs. The seventh move, splitting into 2 pieces. The eighth move, scraping the bones and flesh. The ninth move, sword into the chopping board. Bang! The giant sword made a sound, and sparks splashed everywhere. The last sword, Yang Dingtian slashed on a boulder. Dang! In an instant, the steel sword in his hand broke inch by inch. The last time, the last move. Who? Yang Dingtian's swordsmanship suddenly entered the 7th level of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. At the last moment, he entered the 7th level. Shiwu Piaoyan said that he needed to practice the sword more than 100,000 times, hundreds of thousands of times, to enter the high level of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. However, after only 10,001 times, Yang Dingtian entered the 7th level. Ah! Yang Dingtian suddenly roared and roared, I did it, I did it. I am right, you are wrong, you are crazy. Then, he saw Yan Yan. The beautiful and unparalleled Yan Yan, her eyes gentle and full of concern, slowly walked towards him. Chapter 43. Sin. Yan Yan's eyes turned bitter as she muttered. Then, she slowly walked to Yang Dingtian's side and gently grabbed his half-broken iron sword. She grabbed his muddy right hand and gently said, Come, follow me home. Yang Dingtian stopped, and his fiery red eyes gradually became sober. He looked at Yan Yan and said, Go home. Oh, okay. During this period of time, countless sarcastic remarks entered Yan Yan's ears. City Lord Shimin was a hero, but he actually made a mistake and chose an idiot madman as his son-in-law. It's really a pity for Shimin Yan Yan to marry such a trash. Such a beautiful woman was pushed into the fire pit. Tisk, how could young lady Shimin like this trash? You still don't know, right? Young lady Shimin is still pure and flawless. They aren't even a real couple. She just can't go against City Lord Shimin's will. Young lady Shimin only needs to wait for a year and a half. After that trash is killed by Shimin Yan, she can openly remarry. All these voices entered Shimin Yan Yan's ears. Some of them were heard by her, while some were told to her by her maidservant, Lu Er. Although many people didn't dare to say it, their gazes towards her became very strange. One day, Shimin Ju met her on the road and asked, Is this the hope you found? Shimin Lai couldn't stay in Black Blood Castle any longer, so he specially came to Cloud Heaven City to find Shimin Yan Yan and asked, Are you going to let him continue like this? At that time, Shimin Yan Yan was silent and didn't answer. Grand Elder Yang Yan once talked to her and said, It's not too late for you to regret now. The Northwest Qin clan can temporarily ignore the scandal of you marrying a madman. As long as you are willing, our Cloud Heaven City can announce to the public that you, Shimin Yan Yan, have never married anyone, let alone a madman. Shimin Yan Yan was still silent as she responded. These people are too despicable. I wish I could tear their mouths off. Luer said furiously, their words are getting more and more unpleasant. They really don't have a conscience. If it weren't for the city lord, how could they have their current glory and wealth? Now, not only are they laughing at that madman, they even dare to laugh at young Mississippi, their mouths are on their bodies. No one can stop them from saying anything, Yan Yan said calmly. Luer hesitated for quite a while before saying in a low voice, Young Miss, he looks rather pitiful. Why don't you bring him over? Even 4 or 5-year-old children are bullying him now. Yan Yan turned her face and said, I've already said that I won't care about him anymore. I begged him so humbly, but he didn't listen. He asked for it. Of course, Yan Yan said it out of anger. She didn't know why, but Yang Dingtian's stubbornness and disobedience made her extremely angry. However, it was also because of this stubbornness that his figure was unknowingly imprinted in her heart. As a result, she finally couldn't bear it and went back on her words to find Yang Dingtian. She wasn't Dongfang Bingling. Her heart wasn't that hard. She was only fierce with her words, but her heart was very soft. When she saw Yang Dingtian, who looked like a savage beggar, her maiden heart suddenly felt a sharp pain. Just like this, the ragged and disheveled Yang Dingtian was led back to her house by Yan Yan. After returning to Yan Yan's boudoir, she personally filled her bathtub with hot water. Then, she let Yang Dingtian enter the broth. She personally bathed Yang Dingtian. When Yang Dingtian said that he would bathe himself, she immediately pushed him into the water, not allowing him to speak. She used her slender hands to wash Yang Dingtian clean. Then, she personally shaved his face. Then, she used a white fox fur toothbrush, dipped in the most expensive rose essence and fine salt, to clean each of Yang Dingtian's teeth. Then, she used her own lotus essence to wash Yang Dingqian's hair. Then, she used an ivory comb to comb Yang Dingqian's hair neatly. Finally, she personally made a new robe for Yang Dingtian. A slender and handsome Yang Dingtian appeared in front of her again. But compared to before, he was a lot thinner. Next, there was a table full of sumptuous dishes. Yan Yan accompanied Yang Dingtian to eat. She carefully and gently picked up food for him. Yang Dingtian was still like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. He ate the table full of delicacies clean. After brushing his teeth and rinsing his mouth, the two people quietly sat facing each other, silent. Yan Yan suddenly stretched out her hand to touch Yang Dingtian's cheek. She softly said, "It's my fault. I shouldn't have been angry at that time. I shouldn't have said such ruthless and heartless words. I shouldn't have left you at the back of the mountain and ignored you. I shouldn't have let them laugh at you." Hearing Yan Yan's words, Yang Dingtian was suddenly stunned. Then, he slightly smiled bitterly. Yan Yan also felt that she was crazy. Yan Yan came to Yang Dingtian's side and sat next to him. She softly said, "You're not crazy. You're just under too much pressure. It's all my fault. Are you willing to forgive me?" Yang Dingtian's gaze became gentle. He said, "You didn't do anything wrong. You've always been the best wife. Instead, it was my persistence and stubbornness that hurt you time and time again. So in front of me, you never need to say, 'Forgive.' Not to mention that you didn't do anything wrong. Even if you do something wrong in the future, I will never blame you." Then, Yang Dingtian seriously said, "And Yan Yan, during this period of time, I didn't go crazy. Instead, I entered a state of selflessness. And there's good news, Yan Yan. I've already broken through to the 7th layer of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. I'll soon enter the next step." Before Yang Dingtian finished speaking, Yan Yan's beautiful eyes suddenly trembled. She revealed a worried expression. Her small hand directly covered Yang Dingtian's mouth. "All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow," Yan Yan said. Then, she led Yang Dingtian to the bed and said, "Have a good sleep first. You haven't slept for a long time. Have a good sleep first. We'll talk about it after you wake up." Yang Dingtian smiled bitterly. "Yan Yan, what I said is true." Before he could finish, Yan Yan covered his mouth again and said, "Today, we won't talk about business. Today, we'll only talk about love." Then, Yan Yan's beautiful eyes became gentle, rippling like water. "Yang Dingtian, I've been married to you for so long, but I've never fulfilled my duties as a wife. Today, I'll start learning to be a good wife, okay?" Yang Dingtian's body suddenly trembled, and he opened his mouth to speak. "You want to say a bunch of words like, 'First obtain my heart'?" Yan Yan rebuked, "Then don't say it out loud." Then, Yan Yan took off his outer clothes and let him lie on her gums. Then, Yan Yan's face turned slightly red. She gritted her jade teeth and lay down beside Yang Dingtian. "You?" Yang Dingtian's heart beat wildly, and his nose was filled with a mesmerizing fragrance. "We're husband and wife. Of course, we have to sleep on the same bed." Yan Yan pretended to be natural, but her trembling voice betrayed her heart. "Yan Yan, you don't have to do this." Yang Dingtian's breathing was a little rough. Yan Yan turned her body and stared at Yang Dingtian with her beautiful eyes. "We've been husband and wife for a few months, but we've always kept a distance. Don't you want to be close to me?" "Why wouldn't I? Yang Dingtian, you have the most beautiful face in the world, and the most moving body. You're much cuter than Dongfang Bingling. But the huge responsibility is suffocating you, isn't it?" Yan Yan said, "You like me, but you married me completely because of my father's last words. Because you think I don't love you, because of pride and pity. Before I fall in love with you, you won't touch me. And I married you completely because of my father's last words. I was unwilling, but I didn't disobey my father's orders. So, I pretended to be selfless and devoted to you, but in my heart, I completely rejected you." Yan Yan said, "So, we've been husband and wife for a few months, but we've never been close to each other. We're like familiar strangers, as if there's a thick wall of ice between us. But we've all forgotten that feelings can be cultivated. When a man and a woman are together day and night, there will always be feelings. Yen Yen said, although I pretended to be generous in the past and said that I could fulfill my obligations at any time, I still found all kinds of reasons to prevent this kind of intimacy from happening. From now on, we won't find any excuses. We're husband and wife, and we should be together. Yen Yen leaned over and said softly, husband, we're husband and wife. I'm a woman who loves herself, and I'll never remarry. So, the fact that we're husband and wife is already destined. So, let's throw away the heavy responsibility that's weighing us down, throw away our pitiful self-esteem, and learn to love each other in the purest way, okay? We're surrounded by enemies, so the two of us, husband and wife, have to love each other and rely on each other. Only by giving each other warmth, we won't feel cold and have someone to rely on. Let's make up, okay? Yang Dingtian gasped for breath and shook his shoulders, as if he really wanted to remove the weight on his body. Then, he said with a trembling voice, okay. That's right. Yen Yen also said with a trembling voice, now, you can kiss me. Chapter 44. After Yang Dingtian left, Yen Yen looked at the sky outside the window and said, Father, I've already tried my best. Then, her gaze fell on the black dispersing pill in her hand. She had exchanged it for the world-famous sword, Phoenix Flames. She gritted her teeth and clenched her small hand. Suddenly, the incomparably precious Xian dispersing pill was directly crushed into pieces. Countless rays of light shot out from the broken pieces of the pill, and then the entire pill turned into ashes little by little. Finally, Yin Yan's little hand was completely empty. There were less than 6 days until the Yin Yang festival. Yang Dingtian had to personally hunt for the 5 types of demon cores and find a place where Yin and Yang intersected to set up the array. The 5 types of demon cores were fire, wind, metal, ice, and lightning. There were many fire and metal type demon beasts near Cloud Sky City. The wind type was relatively rare. However, the ice type was troublesome because the entire northwest continent floated above magma. It was definitely a fire-type continent, so there was absolutely no space for ice-type demon beasts to live. As for the lightning type, it was completely rare because almost all of the lightning-type demon beasts were half-energy creatures. Therefore, hunting for lightning-type demon cores was the most difficult task. Easy at first, then hard. First, hunt for fire and metal-type demon beasts. These 2 types of demon beasts could be found everywhere in the training wilderness 100 miles away from Cloud Sky City. It was completely within Cloud Sky City's territory, so it was very safe. However, here came the problem. The demon beast training wilderness 100 miles away had to be ridden on flying beasts because there were deep magma ravines all the way there. War horses couldn't pass through them. Moreover, a large amount of medicine and pills had to be prepared. Yang Dingtian didn't have any of these, and he couldn't look for Yen Yen anymore. That's right. Although the two of them didn't say anything unpleasant, and Yang Dingtian's heart was filled with tenderness and pity for Yen Yen, he couldn't look for Yen Yen before he successfully broke through because Yen Yen was completely disappointed in him. According to normal channels, he should look for Tang Xian because she was a beginner warrior instructor. She was the one who led the low-level training in the wilderness. Otherwise, he could go and find Shimin Zhu because he was in charge of all internal affairs in Cloud Heaven City. However, if Yang Dingtian went to look for these 2 people, he would only be humiliating himself. In Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian could be said to have no one to rely on. He was alone and weak, so he couldn't even go to the beginner's wilderness trials. Then, there was only one person left that Yang Dingtian could find, Shimin Ningning. That's right, she was the gentle and virtuous sister that Yen Yen had mentioned. Yen Yen wanted to marry her to Yang Dingtian's Shimin Ningning, Shimin Wuya's only adopted daughter. Shimin Ningning's position in Cloud Sky City was very special. It was almost irreplaceable because she was a beast speaker, and a genius at that. Beast speakers were able to understand the language of demonic beasts. They were able to control and summon demonic beasts and communicate with demonic beasts. Beast whisperers were extremely rare in the entire Primal Chaos continent, less than 1 in 100,000. Therefore, beast whisperers had an extremely high status in the Primal Chaos continent. They were treated like treasures by every sect. As for Shimin Ningning, she was a genius among beast speakers. Therefore, she had a high status in Cloud Sky City. No matter which side was in power, they would try to win her over. If it wasn't for her weak temperament and poor communication skills, she would have been one of the 9 elders of Cloud Sky City. Even so, she was still an honorary elder of Cloud Sky City. However, she never cared about anything in Cloud Sky City. She basically stayed in her valley and didn't take a step out. She was only in charge of Cloud Sky City's combat demonic beasts and mounts. Originally, Yang Dingtian was the most suitable person to look for her. Not only could she lend Yang Dingtian a mount to go to the beginner's wilderness trials, but she was also very familiar with the demonic beasts within 1,000 miles. If he wanted to hunt for demonic cores, she was the most suitable person to look for. However, Yanyan Shimin had once said that she wanted Shimin Ningning to become Yang Dingtian's second wife. Therefore, Yang Dingtian was a little embarrassed to look for her. Moreover, he heard that this girl was very antisocial and almost never communicated with others. Yang Dingtian also felt that he would be met with a big setback if he went. However, Yang Dingtian had no other choice. If he didn't look for Shimin Ningning to borrow a mount, he couldn't even go to the beginner's wilderness trials. I'm a man. I'm very thick-skinned. What's there to be embarrassed about? Yang Dingtian gritted his teeth and decided to look for Shimin Ningning. Shimin Ningning lived in the quietest and most remote place in Cloud Sky City. It was a small valley. A few hundred meters away from the valley, he felt a tranquil aura and couldn't see anyone. Only a few people could enter this valley. Just as he stepped into the valley, Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a dangerous aura. Swoosh swoosh. Immediately after, 2 white shadows rushed in front of Yang Dingtian like lightning. They were 2 lions about 1 meter long. One was snow white while the other was fiery red. They both had a pair of sharp wings and looked very beautiful and mighty. There were 6 horizontal lines on their foreheads, which meant that they were 6th-grade monsters. 6th-grade monsters were super strong among monsters. Who knew how many years they had cultivated and how many lives they had taken? At least, most people in Cloud Sky City weren't a match for these 2 lions. However, such powerful monsters were kept as gatekeepers by Shimin Ningning. It showed how powerful Shimin Ningning was. Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that these 2 lions possessed great strength. At least, if they were to face him now, they would be able to kill him in an instant. After they rushed in front of Yang Dingtian, they didn't pounce forward to bite him. Instead, they stared coldly at Yang Dingtian. They raised their heads and looked at him with disdain. That's right. Although they were monsters, they were proud of their strength and looked down on weaklings like Yang Dingtian. They used their eyes to tell Yang Dingtian to retreat and leave immediately. Otherwise, they wouldn't be polite. I want to see your master. Yang Dingtian didn't retreat. He didn't care if the 2 monsters could understand him and said, "Roar." One of the white lions roared and spat out a blue light from its mouth. It hit a huge rock beside Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt a bone-piercing cold. The ground dozens of meters around him was covered in frost. The huge rock that weighed more than 10,000 kilograms was instantly frozen and wrapped in a layer of blue ice. Roar! The fiery red lion roared and spat out a ball of flame from its mouth. It hit the frozen rock. Boom! With a loud noise, the huge rock was instantly smashed into pieces. The grass and trees on the ground dozens of meters around were all turned into charcoal. Yang Dingtian suddenly gasped. The 6th-stage monsters were actually so powerful. That huge rock that weighed more than 10,000 kilograms was easily destroyed by them. If Yang Dingtian was the one being sprayed, then, I'm not in a good mood and don't want to see anyone. Please leave. A cold and gentle voice came from the valley. It was like flowing water, but the rejection was very firm. I'm Yang Dingtian. I'm here to see Miss Yang Dingtian, Yang Dingtian said. Ah! Yang Dingtian vaguely heard a low cry. He could even feel the panic of the owner of the voice. After a while, a voice came from inside, then come in. The two lions glanced at Yang Dingtian and actually shot him a warning look. Then, they quickly disappeared into the trees and made way. Yang Dingtian stepped into the valley. This was another peach blossom spring in Cloud Sky City. There were small beasts everywhere. There were powerful beasts as well as ordinary animals. Yang Dingtian couldn't take it all in. In the grass on the left, a beautiful white fox was tilting its head and acting cute to him. On the tree on the right, a squirrel was fighting with a fiery red mink for a big nut. They were fighting so hard that they were grimacing. Taking a closer look, the fiery red mink was actually a fifth-stage monster, and the squirrel was just an ordinary squirrel. The fiery red mink could tear the squirrel to pieces with just a breath, but it was still fighting with its claws. Here, Yang Dingtian felt a very comfortable aura. Here, the weak animals could actually live in harmony with the powerful monsters. One had to know that monsters were very cruel and easy to kill. While he was praising, Yang Dingtian suddenly heard a miserable cry. Then, a monkey rushed out from the road. Its entire body was wrapped around by a blood-red snake. The snake's head also had 5 veins and was about 4 to 5 meters long. It opened its bloody mouth and was about to bite and eat the pitiful monkey. The snake was a 5th-stage monster, and the monkey was just an ordinary monkey. Yang Dingtian was shocked and instinctively wanted to pull out his sword to save the monkey. Unexpectedly, just as the snake was about to bite, the monkey stretched out its 2 hands and grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the snake. Then, it suddenly flipped over and rode on the snake. Then, the monkey and the snake made faces at Yang Dingtian at the same time. Then, they slithered into the grass and rolled into a ball. So, they were just playing around. Yang Dingtian was speechless. Why did you come to see me? Suddenly, a gentle and cold voice came from the front. There was a natural sense of isolation in the voice. It was as if talking to an outsider was very unnatural. Yang Dingtian raised his head and saw a beautiful woman standing under a tree not far away. Her figure was not inferior to Dongfang Bingling. It was as soft as flowing water and as graceful as a willow. Yang Dingtian was sure that everyone would look at her figure at first glance. They might even forget to look at her face. He raised his head and saw her face. Her eyes were like water, her eyebrows were like distant mountains, her hair was like black satin, and her skin was as white as snow. However, this face was not beautiful. It was just delicate. It was not charming, not delicate, not enchanting, but very gentle. It was like the wind of nature, like the water of nature. There was a completely different kind of beauty, a different kind of lovely and moving. Yang Dingtian only took a few glances at her, and the expression on her face was very unnatural. Her face was completely red. In fact, Yang Dingtian was also a little unnatural. This was because Yan Yan had mentioned many times that she wanted Shimin Ningning to marry him and use the Yin-Yang mystic absorption technique to give her Xian Qi to him. I came to ask Miss for help. I want to go to the wilderness to hunt for demon cores. Chapter 45. After Shimin Ningning finished speaking, she walked towards the house in front to avoid facing Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian followed behind her, but he couldn't help but see her back. Her walking was really like a willow swaying in the spring breeze, which was really beautiful and unparalleled. Although Yang Dingtian had already avoided his eyes, Shimin Ningning in front of him became more and more unnatural. Even if her back was to Yang Dingtian, her face was getting redder and redder. Her small face was drooping more and more, and she only dared to look at her toes. She was really introverted. A short distance of tens of meters must be very long in Shimin Ningning's eyes. Her residence was a small attic, without any painting or decoration. It was very simple and elegant, but not lacking in delicacy. After walking into the attic, it was simple but very comfortable. There was almost no metal in it, only wood products, ceramics, cotton and linen products. Yang Dingtian noticed that the clothes she was wearing were not silk brocade, but a very soft cotton cloth. There was no dye, just a natural white and blue color. But when she wore it, it made her figure more charming. She asked Yang Dingtian to sit down and made tea for her. Shimin Ningning sat aside. Yang Dingtian didn't speak and neither did she. The two just sat there quietly. It seemed that talking to a stranger was a great challenge for Shimin Ningning. Yang Dingtian was not in a hurry to speak, but carefully observed the room. Shimin Yanyan once said that the underwear she wore was embroidered by Shimin Ningning. Shimin Ningning was very clever and skillful. Sure enough, most of the things in this room should be made by her. The wooden cup in her hand was not gorgeous and had no carvings, but the curve was very beautiful. It was very comfortable to hold in the hand, just like her figure. Every inch of the curve was perfect, which was the best interpretation of aesthetics. Not only the teacup, but also other things in the room had a natural beauty. Next to her was an unfinished piece of clothing. It was a brocade robe that seemed to belong to a man. Seeing Yang Dingtian looking at the robe, Shimin Ningning blushed and quickly hid the robe. Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned. If a woman like Shimin Ningning sewed a robe for a man, she must have a very, very close relationship with him. Could it be that this water-like woman already had a lover? This is your dress. Yan Yan asked me to make it. Shimin Ningning explained in a low voice. Yang Dingtian was stunned, then said, in the future, she probably won't ask you to make clothes for me anymore. Why? Shimin Ningning asked in surprise. I didn't listen to her, so she ignored me, Yang Dingtian said. Shimin Ningning frowned and said worriedly, there is nothing that can't be said between husband and wife. How can you say things like cutting off all ties? Oh. Is it because you refused to take the black dissociation pill and couldn't learn the chaotic heaven destroyer sword? Yang Dingtian was surprised and said, you know this too? Yan Yan told me everything, Shimin Ningning said, and then her face blushed slightly again. Her delicate face seemed to be unable to hide any secrets. Yang Dingtian was almost sure that Shimin Yanyan had asked him to take Shimin Ningning as his second wife. What did she say about me in front of you? Is that okay? Yang Dingtian asked this question as if he was possessed. Shimin Ningning didn't answer. She looked embarrassed. She didn't want to lie, but she also didn't want to tell the truth. Yang Dingtian knew the answer and felt a little uncomfortable. Yan Yan and Shimin Ningning had nothing to hide, and what they said was the truth. She has indeed been wronged. It's all fate. Yang Dingtian smiled bitterly. Shimin Ningning suddenly fell silent and didn't know what to say. Actually. After hesitating for a while, Shimin Ningning said, actually, between you and Yan Yan, I am more partial to you. People should stick to their own choices. Once you make a choice, you should go on. Either you succeed, or... Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned, then nodded and said, thank you for your approval. I can give in to her in other things, but in this matter, I can only stick to myself. Shimin Ningning lowered her head and said, I know. If it were me, I would make the same choice. Immediately, Yang Dingtian felt as though he was a confidant. The two of them fell silent again, not saying a word. If Yang Dingtian didn't speak, Shimin Ningning definitely wouldn't take the initiative to speak. Yang Dingtian took the initiative to say, I'm going to the wilderness 100 miles away to hunt for demon nuclei. Please ask a flying beast to take me there. Because of the magma abyss in the middle, I can't cross it even if I ride a horse. It would be better if there are some healing medicines. You're going to the wilderness? Alone? Shimin Ningning said. Yang Dingtian nodded. Of course I can give you the things, Shimin Ningning said. But the wilderness is very dangerous. If you go alone, your life will definitely be in danger. I have demon nuclei. It's only effective if you hunt them yourself, Yang Dingtian said. Shimin Ningning opened her mouth to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She nodded and said, "Then wait for me for a while." Then, she walked into the inner room. A few minutes later, she came out with a box in her hand. Opening the box, a fragrance immediately assailed his nose. This red pill is a restoration pill. If you're injured, you should be fine after taking it. This purple pill is a vitality pill. It's used to restore energy, Shimin Ningning said. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Isn't this too wasteful? I only need a level 1 pill. Using a level 5 Wonder Spirit pill on me right now is really... That's right, it was a 5th grade restoration pill. It was extremely precious and could even be used in exchange for one's life. On the market, it could be sold for at least tens of thousands of gold coins. Now, Yang Dingtian was just going to kill low-level demon beasts. Did he need a 5th grade pill? And she gave him 3 pills at once. As for the vitality pill, it was even more exaggerated. It was a 5th grade pill. When a martial Xian or martial venerable released a Xian skill and consumed all their Xian qi, they could fill their sea of qi in a short period of time and continue fighting. Therefore, the value of a single vitality pill far exceeded that of a 5th grade restoration pill. It could be said that the vitality pill was a high-level strategic resource in Cloud Sky City. Now, Yang Dingtian almost had no Xian qi, but Shimin Ningning actually asked him to use it to restore his strength. It's better, Shimin Ningning said. Besides, these are all made by me. You're a pharmacist. Yang Dingtian said. I remember that there's another pharmacist in Cloud Sky City. I made them myself for fun, Shimin Ningning said. Yang Dingtian was astonished once again. To be able to refine a 5th grade upper-class elixir just for fun, this talent was truly insane. That won't do. It's too wasteful and too precious, Yang Dingtian said. You'd better give me a 1st grade pill. Shimin Ningning's little face was suddenly filled with eagerness. She said softly, but I don't want to exchange it, so please hold on to it, okay? Yang Dingtian was shocked again. It was his first time seeing someone give away a precious treasure in a pleading tone. Okay. Yang Dingtian said. Then, the two fell into silence again. Shimin Ningning gathered her courage and said, You really can't go. Demon beasts are very powerful. Even the lowest level demon beast requires 2 or 3 novice martial artists to work together to kill it. You're just an enlightener. Really can't kill it. Your life will be in danger. That's right. Even the lowest level 1st grade demon beast required 3 5-star novice martial artists to work together to kill it. Therefore, every time Cloud Sky City's disciples went to the wilderness to train, they would be led by a teacher with strong martial arts skills. There would be at least a few dozen people going together. Even so, there would still be casualties. Yang Dingtian said, I know it's very dangerous, but I have to hunt all 5 types of demon cores within 6 days. I have no choice. Shimin Ningning was stunned and said, That's impossible. Fire-type and wind-type demon beasts are fine. Metal-type demon beasts live in groups and live in underground caves. Even black martial artists don't dare to hunt them alone. And ice-type demon beasts are at least 10,000 miles away from here. Of course, these aren't the most difficult ones. The most difficult ones are the electric-type demon cores. It's almost impossible to get them. Even masters can't hunt them. Yang Dingtian was puzzled. Is it that difficult to get an electric-type demon core? It's much harder than I thought. Shimin Ningning said. I'm a beast speaker and have seen countless demon beasts. However, I've never seen an electric-type demon beast in my entire life. Electric-type demon beasts are very rare in the entire world. Ah! Yang Dingtian was stunned. He asked, then, where do electric-type demon beasts appear? The abyss at the bottom of the sea tens of thousands of miles away, or the dark crevice at the edge of the continent? However, even masters can't get close to these two places. Shiman Ningning said, therefore, any electric-type demon beast is a rare treasure. Countless people will fight over it. That's right. Even the weakest electric-type demon beast would be nurtured for decades or centuries after it was caught. When it was strong enough, it would be refined into a martial soul. Then, this martial artist would have an electric-type mystic skill. Among all mystic skills, electric-type mystic skills were almost like a bug because they could ignore almost all defenses. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. It seemed that hunting for the 5 types of demon cores was much more difficult than he had imagined. Moreover, he had less than 6 days. Then I have no choice. Yang Dingtian said, I can fail, but I can't give up halfway and retreat when I see the difficulty. Easy first, then hard. I'll hunt the fire-type and wind-type demon cores first. Shiman Ningning said, but with your strength, it's really difficult to kill them. You can't even pierce through their outer skin protection. And they are born with mystic skills. Just a light breath can cause great damage. Then I can pierce their eyes and mouths. Yang Dingtian said, I have confidence in my swordsmanship, and I only hunt lone demon beasts. Shiman Ningning bit her lips and said, do you really want to go? Or, I'll go with you. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, no, I can only hunt alone. Otherwise, after the demon beast dies, there will be other people's information in the demon core, and this demon core will be completely useless. But, if you lose your life, Yen Yen will blame me. Moreover, you have all my foster father's hopes. Shiman Ningning said. I'll be very careful. Yang Dingtian said firmly, and, if I can't even kill the lowest level demon beast, then I can really leave Cloud Sky City directly. Shiman Ningning struggled for a while, then bit her lips and said, okay, then wait for me for a while. Then, she turned and walked into the house. After a few minutes, Shiman Ningning walked out again, and there was a piece of clothing that was as thin as a feather in her hand. Moreover, the skirt she was wearing was a little wrinkled, and her clothes were a little untidy. It could be seen that this thin piece of clothing was just taken off from her body, and she had been wearing it close to her skin. This is the deep-sea Xian clothes, the last layer of skin that Naga people shed after turning into human form. It's very soft and strong. Ordinary demon beasts can't hurt your upper body when you wear it. Shiman Ningning said, put it on, and then go hunt demon beasts. Ah! Yang Dingtian was completely shocked. Deep-sea Xian clothes? The skin shed by the Naga people, this was a treasure of heaven and earth. The Naga people, the most mysterious and powerful race in this world. Everyone in this world knew the legend of the Naga people, but for thousands of years, no one had really seen the Naga people. But Shiman Ningning actually had the Naga people's deep-sea Xian clothes? Who exactly was she? The most important thing was, why did she lend such a treasure to Yang Dingtian? It was only the first time they had met. Chapter 46. Don't ask me where the Naga's deep-sea Xian clothes came from, and don't ask me why I gave it to you, okay? Shiman Ningning said. Also, don't let others know that you're wearing the deep-sea Xian clothes, Ningning continued. Yang Dingtian nodded, but he still couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. The Naga was the ultimate secret of this world. For thousands of years, countless people had yearned for it, but no one had really explored it. Yang Dingtian had read the relevant records. The Divine Dragon was the supreme guardian of the entire chaotic continent, known as the Divine Dragon Titan. In all the records, even those from ancient times, there were no dragons in this world, only their close relatives. But as long as it was a close relative of the dragon, it was extremely powerful. The Naga was the closest relative of the dragon. It was the offspring of a dragon and a sea snake. Before it turned into a human form, it looked like a snake and a dragon. It was majestic and terrifying, domineering and cold-blooded. In short, the Naga could be called the most powerful race in the world. More than 10,000 years ago, Shiwu Piaoyan wanted to save the world, and the first thing he looked for was the powerful Naga. However, he didn't know whether he met the Naga in the end. This secret could only be known at the second stage of the pig-killing swordsmanship. This is the skin of a female Naga, so it's very small. Take off your shirt, and I'll help you put it on inch by inch. It's just a shirt, no pants, Yang Dingtian said. There are also legs, but they're on me, Shimin Ningning whispered. Her face was so red that it almost dripped blood. Yang Dingtian quickly stopped talking. He was afraid that the girl in front of him would really find a hole in the ground and hide in it. Then, with the help of Shimin Ningning, Yang Dingtian put on the deep-sea Xian clothes inch by inch. Shimin Ningning had never been so close to a man. Her whole face was like a red cloth. Her rapid breathing hit Yang Dingtian's face. The sound of her heart beating could almost be heard by Yang Dingtian. Of course, Yang Dingtian was not much better. After putting on the deep-sea Xian clothes, Yang Dingtian could hardly feel its existence, as if it had become another layer of Yang Dingtian's skin. Then, he put on Yang Dingtian's clothes. Then, Shimin Ningning took Yang Dingtian to the balcony outside and shouted gently into the air, "Yao Yao, come here. I'm looking for you." After a while, a gorgeous shadow flew out of the cave at the top of the mountain. It flew very quickly and gracefully. Soon, it was in front of Yang Dingtian. It floated in the air and gently flapped its wings. What a beautiful mount! Yang Dingtian had never seen such a beautiful mount before. Its slender body was bent into an S shape, and on both sides of its body were gorgeous and soft wings. It was just that the wings on the body were the widest, and gradually narrowed towards the tail. The wings also drew a beautiful arc. Yang Dingtian had never seen such a beautiful flying beast before. It was obvious that this was a very rare mount. This is the floating ray. It flies very steadily and quickly, and is very docile. Shimin Ningning looked at Yang Dingtian and then reached out her small hand to stroke the floating ray's head. Compared to its wings, its head was very small, but its pair of eyes were very big. It had a tender mouth and looked very cute. "You're taking me to the Red Wilderness. You have to be good, okay?" Shimin Ningning stroked the floating ray's head and said softly in its ear. The floating ray enjoyed the stroke. Its big eyes narrowed slightly, and it rubbed its head against Shimin Ningning's small hand, making a spoiled and coquettish sound. After Shimin Ningning let go of her hand, the beautiful ray slowly flew down and floated a foot away from the balcony. It tilted its head and called, asking Yang Dingtian to sit on its body. Yang Dingtian gently jumped on the back of the floating ray. He touched its neck first and whispered, "Thank you, Yao Yao." Then he waved at Shimin Ningning and said, "Goodbye." Shimin Ningning gently leaned on the railing of the balcony. Her delicate body seemed to be a little soft. She waved at Yang Dingtian and said, "Goodbye. Be careful. You have to be careful." Then the floating ray carried Yang Dingtian and flew towards the Red Wilderness 100 miles away. The Red Wilderness was about 100 miles northwest of Cloud Sky City. The floating ray flew very fast. In less than half an hour, it was above the Red Wilderness. Sitting on the floating ray, Yang Dingtian looked down at the Red Wilderness below. It was really boundless. Countless red cracks tore the entire ground apart, leaving scars everywhere. Boiling, blood-red magma flowed through the cracks all the time, never solidifying. Even the land here was blood-red. The entire Red Wilderness was about 400 miles long. In the center was a huge volcano. During the Great Nirvana period, the volcano erupted and tore apart the surrounding hundreds of miles. Lava poured into the cracks, forming the Red Wilderness today. In the lava, there was extremely dense fire-type celestial chi. Therefore, there were countless demonic beasts in the Red Wilderness. Looking down from the sky, other than the countless smaller cracks, there were also 5 huge square-shaped cracks with the volcano as the center. One after another, the Red Wilderness was divided into 5 pieces. The closer to the volcano, the thicker the celestial chi and the higher the level of the demonic beasts. The floating ray landed at the outermost edge of the Red Wilderness. Yang Dingtian jumped onto the Red Wilderness. The floating ray screeched and flew towards Cloud Sky City. It would come back to pick up Yang Dingtian in the evening. Stepping on the red soil, Yang Dingtian instantly felt extremely hot. The celestial qi here was indeed much denser than in Cloud Sky City. However, the celestial qi here couldn't be used to refine because there was a strong fire poison. After refining, the celestial qi would be burned alive. This was the outermost edge of the Red Wilderness. The demonic beasts here were relatively low level. From the map, the outermost edge was about 30,000 square kilometers. As far as the eye could see, there were mountains of different heights and rocks. Most of the place didn't have any plants. Only a few places had strange plants. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath of the scorching hot air and pulled out his sword. The danger had already begun. At this moment, he was the only one in the entire wilderness. However, there were countless demonic beasts hiding behind the mountains and in caves. Yang Dingtian knew that the most dangerous place in the Red Wilderness was the deep caves that were everywhere. The second most dangerous place was between the mountains and the mountains. The safest place was the flat ground. Therefore, Yang Dingtian always stayed away from the mountains and caves. He carefully walked on the flat ground and went deeper into the Red Wilderness bit by bit. Although he had pills and the deep-sea Xian clothes, he was only an initiate. This place was extremely dangerous. The deep-sea Xian clothes couldn't protect his head and limbs. Any demonic beast of the lowest level could kill him. It wasn't until this moment that Yang Dingtian realized how crazy he was. He didn't have any Xian energy, but he actually came to the dangerous Red Wilderness alone. Yang Dingtian slowly walked forward. His nerves were tense, and every hair on his body was tightly standing. He tried not to touch the bushes at his feet as much as possible. The surroundings were silent. Not even the sound of insects could be heard. It was strangely quiet. It was so quiet that it was terrifying. It was as if fatal dangers were lurking everywhere. Yang Dingtian walked for more than 10 minutes. He had already gone 2 or 3 miles, but he still didn't see half a demonic beast. He couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Without demonic beasts, he was safe, but he couldn't hunt for demonic cores. Ha! What's that? Yang Dingtian suddenly felt his eyes brighten. In the crack of the mountain in front of him, there seemed to be a flame burning. He walked forward and found that it was not a flame, but a red and black stone. It looked like a fire from a distance. Ha! Master, what's this? Yang Dingtian asked. Ah! Dongfang Minmi made a surprised sound, and said, "It can't be. This is too lucky. You just came out for an adventure, and in this kind of low-level demonic beast wilderness, you actually encountered such a precious thing. Others may not be able to encounter it even if they travel thousands of miles." Hearing Dongfang Minmi's surprise, Yang Dingtian was even more curious, and asked, "What is this thing?" "It's bloody black gold, and it was just exposed from the crack of the boulder. Otherwise, it would have been taken away long ago," Dongfang Minmi said. "Ah, bloody black gold, the bloody black gold used to forge soul swords?" Yang Dingtian said in disbelief. "That's right. Bloody black gold was not only the best material for forging divine weapons. Any weapon forged with bloody black gold was a divine weapon. However, the precious value of bloody black gold was that it could be used to forge soul swords. Moreover, it was the only material for forging soul swords. A Yang-type soul sword required at least 99 pieces of bloody black gold. A martial artist would need to travel all over the world and spend years, or even decades, to dig up enough bloody black gold. Therefore, any piece of bloody black gold was worth tens of thousands of gold. Yang Dingtian had just arrived at the training wilderness, and he had actually encountered a blood-black gold that had cracked open a rock. This was not something that could be described as lucky. It was as if the heavens were telling Yang Dingtian to choose to cultivate a sword soul. "Child, I will ask you again. Have you decided to cultivate a sword soul? This is the most difficult path in the world. In this world, there are only 3 people who have successfully cultivated a sword soul. Even Zhu Qingzhu, a peerless expert, did not have one. Dongfang Minmi asked. Yang Dingtian looked at the piece of bloody black gold and said, I have already decided. Moreover, you said that Dongfang Bingling cultivates a sword soul, and she has already forged a sword. Yang Dingtian said, if I do not cultivate a sword soul, I will never be able to defeat her. A sword soul was the king of all souls. Other martial souls were refined from demonic beasts, and no matter how strong they would not exceed half of a demonic beast's strength. As for the sword soul, it was said that it could grow forever and become so powerful that it could break through the heavens. Shiman Wuya's sword soul was only in the growth stage, but it was already so strong that it defeated the Grandmaster of the Yinyang school, Grand Elder Ning Busi. If he had not been harmed by Zhu Qingzhu, with his sword soul, he would have been invincible in the world 10 years later. That's good. When Master cultivated a sword soul, he took many detours. Now, he will not let you take any more detours. Dongfang Minmi said, the first step to cultivating the strongest sword soul is to personally forge a peerless sword. The first step to forging a peerless sword is to personally dig out this precious piece of bloody black gold. Yang Dingtian immediately took out a dagger and stepped forward to dig out this piece of bloody black gold. He inserted the dagger into a crack in the stone and forcefully tilted it. Swoosh! Suddenly, a fiery light flashed in front of Yang Dingtian's eyes, and a stinging heat almost blinded him. A fiery red giant wolf suddenly rushed out from behind the mountain. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at Yang Dingtian's neck like lightning. This was a fiery demon wolf, a fire-type demonic beast that was cruel and bloodthirsty. Chapter 47. Yang Dingtian was shocked, but he didn't run away. Instead, he instinctively raised his sword and stabbed at the wolf's throat. The first move of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, piercing the throat and letting out blood. Yang Dingtian's sword practice came into effect. He used his fastest speed to stab the wolf's throat before it could bite his throat. Bang! Then, using the momentum of the fiery demon wolf's charge, he quickly retreated more than 10 meters to pull away from the dangerous wolf in front of him. Then, he looked to see if the wolf was stabbed to death. However, the result disappointed him. His sword accurately stabbed the wolf's throat, but not to mention piercing through, it didn't even pierce through its fur. The wolf's skin was like a layer of hard armor. His sword couldn't pierce through it. Wolves were suspicious by nature. Although it wasn't injured after being stabbed in the throat, it didn't immediately chase after him. Instead, it slowly arched its body and stared at Yang Dingtian with its scarlet eyes. Is it so sad to have no Xian Qi? The sword can't even pierce through the wolf's skin. Yang Dingtian looked at the tip of his sword. He had used all his strength to stab it, but there wasn't even a trace of blood on the tip of the sword. This is a young fiery demon wolf. It noticed you a long time ago and was hiding behind the boulder, ready to kill you in one shot. Dongfang Minmi said. Only a young one? Yang Dingtian was secretly shocked. The wolf in front of him was nearly 2 meters long and 1 meter tall, and it was still a young one. Child, your first battle is here. You have to rely on yourself. Dongfang Minmi said, this fiery demon wolf has been hungry for a long time. It won't let you go. If you lose, you die. The fiery demon wolf specializes in biting people's throats. It's a fatal blow. Yang Dingtian's hair stood on end. He arched his body slightly and stared at the wolf in front of him. That's right, this was his first real battle. If the wolf didn't die, then he would die. No one would help him, and he could be bitten to death at any moment. The giant wolf's body arched tighter and tighter, and its cruel gaze became more and more concentrated. It let out a series of roars and revealed its dagger-like teeth. Once bitten on the neck, there was no doubt that one would die. Yang Dingtian was extremely nervous. The real hunt was much harder than he had imagined. This wolf's strength was many times that of Yang Dingtian. Its speed was many times faster than Yang Dingtian's. The key was that Yang Dingtian's body was almost invulnerable. What Yang Dingtian possessed was the incomparably exquisite pig-slaying swordsmanship, but he did not possess profound qi. He also had the deep-sea Xian robe to protect his upper body, but the fiery demon wolf only targeted his throat. Time passed second by second. The man and the wolf stood more than 10 meters apart, facing each other. The giant wolf was looking for an opportunity to land a fatal blow, but Yang Dingtian's speed and strength were too slow, so he had to look for an opportunity when the opponent attacked. The only way to kill the giant wolf was to stab the sword through its mouth as fast as possible when it opened its mouth to bite down on his throat. There was only one chance. Once lost, there was no doubt that he would die. Moreover, the time left for Yang Dingtian was at most half a second. This wolf had obviously not eaten for a long time. Its prey was right in front of it. The blood in its eyes became thicker and thicker, and the roars in its mouth became more and more mournful. The giant wolf began to move, circling around Yang Dingtian. What a cunning monster! It had such a huge advantage, but it did not take the initiative to attack. It did not give Yang Dingtian any chance, but instead looked for an opportunity while moving. Yang Dingtian did not move. He could not move. Because once he moved, the giant wolf would pounce on Yang Dingtian and bite off his neck in an instant. At that time, it would be too late for him to organize an attack. This wolf was really cunning and dangerous. Therefore, even if the giant wolf had circled behind him, Yang Dingtian still did not move. He held the sword in his right hand, and his body was like a bow, ready to attack at any time. The cunning and dangerous giant wolf circled around again and again. Suddenly, it jumped up like lightning, pouncing on Yang Dingtian's left side. It opened its bloody mouth and bit toward Yang Dingtian's throat. What a cunning beast! This position was almost Yang Dingtian's blind spot. Its speed was very fast. In an instant, it was in front of Yang Dingtian. It aimed at Yang Dingtian's neck and bit down. Dig out the heart and lungs. Yang Dingtian did not move the sword in his right hand. The dagger in his left hand quickly came out from his sleeve, and fiercely stabbed into the giant wolf's bloody mouth. It was still the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Awoo! A mournful howl was heard. Hot blood suddenly splashed out from the giant wolf's mouth. Yang Dingtian's left dagger fiercely pierced the giant wolf's throat. However, the giant wolf still did not die. It actually closed its mouth and directly bit off Yang Dingtian's dagger. Boom! Then, from its mouth, it suddenly spat out a flame, and in a flash, the broken dagger in its throat was spat out. Fuck! It was only a young fiery demon wolf, but it was already so powerful. The injured fiery demon wolf was even more furious. After spitting out the broken dagger, its two sharp front claws suddenly clawed toward Yang Dingtian's neck. This beast only attacked people's necks. Its speed was very fast. Like a gust of wind, its sharp claws instantly appeared in front of Yang Dingtian's eyes. It was going to tear his neck to pieces. Yang Dingtian did not have time to retreat. His body quickly leaned back, and his neck escaped the giant wolf's fatal claws. Bang! A sharp pain came from his chest. His ribs were almost broken, and a mouthful of blood almost spurted out. The giant wolf's claws slashed across Yang Dingtian's chest. Thanks to the deep-sea Xian clothes, the sharp claws did not cut Yang Dingtian's flesh. However, the huge force still made Yang Dingtian almost unable to breathe. After slashing across Yang Dingtian's chest, the giant wolf's front claws suddenly pounced forward. A huge force slammed Yang Dingtian down. The giant wolf pounced on Yang Dingtian and directly pressed him to the ground. Ow! With a ferocious howl, the giant wolf's scarlet eyes burst out a violent light. It opened its huge mouth and fiercely bit down on Yang Dingtian's head. Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, Eternal Disaster, the sharp sword in Yang Dingtian's hand shot out quickly. In an instant, dozens of swords were shot out. Puff 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 puff. In an instant, the giant wolf's mouth was smashed, and then suddenly pierced deep into its throat. The giant wolf was shocked. Before it could howl, it suddenly closed its big mouth in advance to bite off the sword blade. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's head avoided the giant wolf's fierce bite. Then, before it bit off the sword blade, he quickly pulled out the sword blade. Bang! The giant wolf's mouth bit the air. Its sharp blade-like teeth fiercely collided with each other, bursting out a spark. With a swing of its head, it ferociously attacked Yang Dingtian's neck to bite. Beast! Either you die or I die. Kill you, now is the time. Yang Dingtian did not dodge. The sharp sword in his hand stabbed out like lightning. Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, eternal disaster. Whoosh whoosh, Yang Dingtian quickly stabbed into the two scarlet eyes of the fiery demon wolf. Poochie! Blood burst out. With a sharp pain, the fiery demon wolf's eyes were instantly blinded. It immediately turned around to escape. How could Yang Dingtian let it run away? With all his strength, he fiercely pushed the sword in his hand. With one stab, the brain matter spurted out. The sharp blade directly pierced into the depths of the giant wolf's brain. With a sudden twist, the entire brain was instantly smashed. Awoo! A deafening scream, blood spurted, claws madly clawed, and stones splashed. The fiery demon wolf, on the verge of death, made the craziest struggle and the craziest counterattack. Yang Dingtian stuck close to the wolf's belly, avoiding its crazy counterattack. Puff! Finally, the 1,000-pound fiery demon wolf fell heavily to the ground, completely dead. Hiss! Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's arm felt a sharp pain, and blood spurted out. Before this beast died, it grabbed Yang Dingtian, leaving a deep bloody wound on Yang Dingtian's arm. Then, it fiercely smashed to the ground, completely dead. A ferocious demon beast that required 5 novice martial artists to kill together was killed by Yang Dingtian, an enlightener, alone. After confirming that the giant wolf was dead, Yang Dingtian's limbs went soft, and he fell directly to the ground. The fiery demon wolf's body was on top of him, and he couldn't care less. He opened his mouth and gasped for breath as if he didn't have any strength left. At this time, Yang Dingtian felt a burning pain all over his body. Although he had the protection of the deep-sea Xian clothes, of course, his body was still covered with scars and blood. I finally killed this beast. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and pushed away the fiery demon wolf's body that was on top of him. He climbed up from the ground and then used his sword to cut off the fiery demon wolf's head to take out the demon core. When the fiery demon wolf was still alive, its skin was almost invulnerable. After it died, Yang Dingtian's sword could cut open its skin and flesh, cut open its head, and take out the demon core inside. The demon core was the size of a walnut, covered with complicated patterns, and was a flame-like red. The first demon core is in my hands. Yang Dingtian was a little excited. He kissed the fire-type demon core and then put it into the bag. Fire-type demon core was in his hands. Only 4 left. Wind, metal, ice, and lightning. It was really easy. A young fiery demon wolf was enough to make Yang Dingtian in danger and full of scars. Little Tian, bury the fiery demon wolf's body. Otherwise, it will attract a lot of other demon beasts. At that time, it will be really dangerous. Suddenly, Dongfang Minmi said. Yes, master. Yang Dingtian said. Then, he used his sword to dig a hole. After half an hour, he dug a hole that was more than 1 meter deep and 3 to 4 meters long. Then, he spent a lot of effort to bury the fiery demon wolf's body in the hole. After burying the fiery demon wolf's body, Yang Dingtian slightly adjusted his breathing and let himself recover his strength. Now, it was time to harvest another treasure, the bloody black gold that was worth 10,000 gold. Yang Dingtian climbed up the boulder and used his dagger to dig out the red bloody black gold. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Yang Dingtian felt that the bloody black gold at this time seemed to be more red than before. It was more dazzling, as if it was really a burning flame. This is the first step of my perfect sword spirit. Yang Dingtian then inserted the dagger under the bloody black gold and used his strength to pry it out. Wow! He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Yang Dingtian felt that the bloody black gold actually cheered as if it was very happy when someone dug it out. Yes, this is the bloody black gold's cheering. It is condensed from the fiery energy of heaven and earth. It is full of spirit energy, so it can be used to forge soul swords. Dongfang Nimi said, "It's just a piece of bloody black gold. It will take 100 years to grow." After the bloody black gold was dug out of the boulder, the red color gradually extinguished and turned into a crystal clear dark purple. Who? At this time, the sky suddenly darkened and a gust of wind came. Someone was coming. Yang Dingtian was shocked. He immediately dug out the bloody black gold and held it tightly in his hand. He didn't expect that a fist-sized piece of bloody black gold would be so heavy. It was at least 10 to 20 pounds. But at this time, Yang Dingtian didn't have time to be surprised. Who? A griffin suddenly landed in front of Yang Dingtian. Then, a handsome young man jumped down from the griffin's back. He greedily looked at the bloody black gold in Yang Dingtian's hand. He suddenly pulled out a sharp sword and sneered at Yang Dingtian, "Toad, hand over the bloody black gold and I'll give you an intact corpse." Yang Dingtian recognized this young man. At that time, he was beside Tang Li and said that he wanted to cripple Yang Dingtian. "You finally left Cloud Sky City. My name is Yang Qi. My father died at the hands of Shimen Wuya. Today, I will kill you to avenge my father. I am a 5-star novice martial artist. Killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Die! Shimen Yen Yen, that bitch, I will take good care of her for you." After saying that, Yang Qi's eyes burst out with murderous intent. He shook his sharp sword and fiercely stabbed at Yang Dingtian. Chapter 48. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Before Yang Qi's sword arrived, several rays of sword energy shot out. Yang Dingtian quickly dodged. Hiss hiss hiss. Although his dodging speed was very agile, it was still too late. His face and neck were hit by the sword energy in 4 places. Suddenly, he felt a burning pain. The wounds cut deep into his flesh and blood flowed out. Yang Dingtian was already injured the moment he made his move. The opponent was a 5-star novice martial artist, 5 levels higher than Yang Dingtian, but his Xian energy was 10 times more than Yang Dingtian's. After the sword energy hit Yang Dingtian, Yang Qi rushed in front of Yang Dingtian. The sword in his hand quickly stabbed towards Yang Dingtian's crotch. This young man was really vicious. Because he was jealous that Yang Dingtian married Yen Yen, he wanted to castrate Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian quickly waved the sword in his hand to block. Dang! In an instant, Yang Dingtian's sword blocked the opponent's castrating sword. But at the moment of impact, his arm suddenly shook. A stream of Xian energy fiercely drilled into his wrist, desperately tearing Yang Dingtian's blood vessels. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian quickly retreated a few steps to avoid Yang Qi's sword edge. "You can actually block my sword?" Yang Qi said in surprise. Then he revealed a sinister sneer and said, "Why don't you try again?" Suddenly, Yang Qi quickly stabbed his sword. Every sword stabbed towards Yang Dingtian's crotch. He was determined to turn Yang Dingtian into a eunuch. Dang 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 dang. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian only felt a burst of cold air between his crotch. The sharp blade emitting cold air was constantly cutting towards his vital points. If he was stabbed, he would really become a eunuch. Yang Dingtian's hair suddenly stood up. He focused all of his attention on Yang Qi's vicious sword tip. The sword in his hand madly swung out. Dang 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 dang, in an instant, Yang Qi stabbed dozens of times. As for Yang Dingtian, he had also blocked dozens of swords. Yang Dingtian blocked more than 100 sword strikes, and Yang Dingtian blocked more than 100. Suddenly, the small space between Yang Dingtian's crotch was mottled with sword shadows, and sparks flew everywhere. Yang Dingtian's every move was dangerous, but he still managed to block Yang Qi's sword. Although Yang Qi's sword strikes were much more powerful and fast, they were still able to block his attacks. However, Yang Dingtian possessed the most profound sword art in the world, which made up for this gap. Therefore, even though it was extremely dangerous, Yang Dingtian still managed to block all the attacks. At first, Yang Qi had a mocking expression on his face, but as each of his sword strikes was blocked, his expression grew more and more shocked. In the end, it was an expression of complete disbelief. What kind of sword technique is this? It can actually block my 7th grade flower drawing sword cleansing technique? Yang Qi took a step back and asked in shock, "Your speed is inferior to mine, and your strength is inferior to mine, but you can actually block my sword. What sword technique are you using?" "Of course it's the pig-slaying sword technique," Yang Dingtian said coldly. "Impossible, the pig-slaying sword technique is trash," Yang Qi said coldly. "That's because you're stupid, treating a pearl as a piece of trash," Yang Dingtian sneered. "Humph, you're really an idiot." Yang Qi said coldly, "If you hadn't shown the power of the pig-slaying sword technique, you might have been able to keep your life. Now that you've shown the extraordinariness of the pig-slaying sword technique, you're completely courting death. Do you think I'll leave behind a powerful enemy for myself?" Then, Yang Qi sneered, "If I cut off your limbs first, let's see if you can still block my sword. Let's see if I can castrate you." Whoosh! Then, Yang Qi's sword stabbed out like a poisonous snake. It was still the flower-drawing sword cleansing technique. The blade of the sword was as gentle as a snake, and in an instant, it was half a foot in front of Yang Dingtian's arm. Not only did he want to pierce Yang Dingtian's arm, but he also wanted to break the Xian veins on his arm. Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, ruthless disaster. The sword in Yang Dingtian's hand turned, and suddenly, the sword shadow was faintly discernible. It quickly entangled Yang Qi's sword, and then pulled outwards. Suddenly, Yang Qi's vicious and sharp sword was violently swatted away. Using 4 tails to deflect 1,000 pounds, Yang Qi's sword flew out. How is this possible? Yang Qi was really shocked. Just now, when he had been trying to stab Yang Dingtian's crotch, he had been blocked time and time again. It could be said that the space was too narrow, and Yang Dingtian could easily judge the momentum of his sword, so it was much easier for him to block it. But now, his attack range was so huge. Not only was Yang Dingtian able to block his attack, but Yang Dingtian had also easily moved his attack away. This was too inconceivable. Suddenly, Yang Qi's eyes flashed with incomparable greed. The pig-slaying swordsmanship was so mysterious. However, because of this, Yang Dingtian in front of him absolutely could not be left alive. He had to kill him. Suddenly, Yang Qi put away the shock in his heart and stared at Yang Dingtian's body, preparing for the next attack. Flower retrieving sword technique, 3rd sword, falling flowers willingly. Yang Qi's sword move was strange, as light as the wind, and stabbed towards Yang Dingtian's wrist. Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, ruthless. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian still used the same move, still using the same move, and moved Yang Qi's sword away. But this time, the ruthless sword was a little different from the previous one. Yang Qi's eyes were blazing, and with a wild shout, the sword in his hand fiercely stabbed again. Flower retrieving sword technique, 4th sword, flowing water ruthless. It directly stabbed towards Yang Dingtian's eyes. However, it was still carried away by Yang Dingtian's sword. Yang Dingtian was still using the 3rd move of the Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, ruthless sword, but it was a little different. Pig-slaying swordsmanship, number 1 in the world, the sword was fixed, and every move was alive. Yang Qi was really going crazy. He was 5 levels higher than Yang Dingtian, and his Xian energy was nearly 10 times stronger, but he was completely helpless against Yang Dingtian. Flower retrieving sword technique, 5th sword, fierce autumn wind. 6th sword, torrential storm. 7th sword, raging waves. 8th sword, 1,000 layers of snow. 9th sword, 10,000 souls extermination. Finally, Yang Qi used the last move. At the same time, it was also the most powerful and dangerous move of the flower retrieving sword technique. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless sword chi fiercely shot out, and the sharp sword in Yang Qi's hand seemed to turn into countless poisonous snakes, crazily wrapping around Yang Dingtian's entire head and neck. In an instant, Yang Dingtian's upper body was completely covered by the sword light. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's face was cut by the sword chi, and his entire head was cold, as if it could be cut into pieces at any time. Yang Dingtian had entered the most dangerous moment, and his entire head could be cut into pieces in an instant. At this time, Yang Dingtian was blocking while staring at Yang Qi's sword, trying to find the flaw in the 9th killing move of the flower retrieving sword technique. In other words, the sword eye. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, Yang Dingtian's neck was cut in two, one of which was less than a centimeter away from the main artery. Found it, it's here. Yang Dingtian, who had practiced the most profound sword technique, quickly found the flaw in his opponent's sword eye. After learning the pig-slaying swordsmanship, there were no other sword techniques in the world. After learning the pig-slaying swordsmanship, one could find the flaw in other sword techniques at any time. Pig-slaying swordsmanship, first move, piercing the throat and letting blood. Having found the flaw, Yang Dingtian's steel sword shot out like a meteor. Clang! In an instant, all of Yang Dingtian's sword techniques were completely destroyed, and the blade was completely blocked by Yang Dingtian's sword. Clang 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 clang. In an instant, the two swords collided. Clang! Obviously, the quality of Yang Dingtian's sword was worse, and it instantly shattered. Yang Qi's moves were blocked, and suddenly his sword technique was in chaos, his aura was in chaos, and his feet were slightly staggered. This was the moment to counterattack. This was the moment to kill the enemy. This was the moment Yang Dingtian risked his life for. Kill! Yang Dingtian suddenly rushed forward, breaking free of the two swords' entanglement, and madly stabbed at Yang Qi's chest with the broken sword in his hand. Shiwu 9 Disaster's sword, living beings. Suddenly, the broken sword in Yang Dingtian's hand turned into a cold light, and madly stabbed at Yang Qi's chest. Puff 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 puff. In an instant, Yang Qi's chest was pierced dozens of times, and blood spurted out. Ah! Yang Qi screamed, and used all of his strength to quickly retreat. Yang Dingtian's foot tapped the ground, and madly rushed out with all of his strength. Pig-slaying swordsmanship, heart and lungs gouge. As he madly rushed, the broken sword in his hand fiercely stabbed at Yang Qi's heart. Puff! In an instant, the sharp broken sword fiercely stabbed into Yang Qi's chest, and blood splattered everywhere. Ah! Yang Qi was instantly scared out of his wits, and helplessly watched as Yang Dingtian's broken sword was about to pierce his heart. Suddenly, a decisive and cruel aura surged. I can't die. Yang Qi's hand suddenly grabbed the sharp sword piercing his heart, and fiercely twisted it. Crack! Yang Qi's palm madly spurted blood, and his flesh was badly mangled. However, Yang Dingtian's sure-kill sword was forcefully broken. Then, Yang Qi used all of his strength to quickly retreat dozens of meters. Yang Dingtian used all of his strength, but the distance between Yang Qi and him was getting farther and farther. In the blink of an eye, they were more than 30 meters apart. Ah! A roar of anger and unwillingness rang out. The opportunity to kill the opponent was lost just like that. If he pursued now, not only would he not be able to kill the opponent, but he would also be harmed. He had gone to great lengths to create this opportunity, but because of his lack of energy, he could only lightly injure the opponent, and was unable to kill him. If he had Xian energy, even if it was only half of Yang Qi's, it would be enough to kill the opponent several times over. At that moment, Yang Dingtian suddenly desired a breakthrough in Xian energy more than ever, and hated the weakness of his own Xian energy. After retreating dozens of meters, Yang Qi calmed down a bit. Haha, hee hee. Yang Qi let out a burst of strange laughter, his face still filled with shock as he looked at Yang Dingtian. Your sword technique really opened my eyes. It's too strong, too miraculous. I really couldn't imagine that just by relying on the profoundness of a sword technique, you could actually make up for the difference of 5 levels of Xian energy. I underestimated you and was careless, and I actually almost died under your sword. Yang Qi wiped the blood from his hand, and continued to laugh coldly. However, you won't have the chance. I now know how to deal with you. Don't bother with sword techniques, just use Xian energy to crush and kill you. You're too amazing, so you have to die. If you don't die today, we will definitely die by your hands in the future. No matter the price, you have to die. With a face full of determination, Yang Qi took out a pill from his bosom. It was a third-grade Xian explosion pill. A third-grade Xian explosion pill was very precious. The reason he had this pill was because he was a member of the Yang clan. Taking this pill could instantly increase the Xian energy in the body by several times. However, it could only last for half a quarter of an hour, and then for the next few months, he would have to pay off the debt, which would have huge consequences. However, in order to kill Yang Dingtian, Yang Qi was willing to bear the consequences. Because he was a descendant of the Yang clan, and because Shimen Wuya killed his father. Because he coveted Yanyan Shimen. Because he was expelled from Cloud Sky City when he was very young, and only recently returned to Cloud Sky City. Otherwise, how could he only be a 5-star novice martial artist at the age of 17? Because he had already seen how extraordinary Yang Dingtian was, he must kill him before he sprouted. After taking the Xian explosion pill, Yang Qi's whole body began to turn red, and a powerful aura burst out from his body. His eyes were also bright red, as if they were on fire. Suddenly, Yang Qi's Xian energy increased by 3 times. Phew! A red smoke emerged from his mouth, and Yang Qi's handsome face became distorted and ferocious. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath, and all the hairs on his body stood on end. He arched his body, and held the sword with both hands, like a fierce beast, waiting to receive Yang Qi's fatal blow. This was a real fatal blow. Yang Qi crazily condensed all his Xian energy into the sword in his hand. The sword became redder, redder, redder. Boom! Finally, the whole sword burst into flames. Yang Dingtian, now you can really die. With a roar, Yang Qi waved the burning sword in his hand, and fiercely chopped down at Yang Dingtian. Boom! With a loud sound, the burning sword suddenly burst out a huge sword light, like lightning, and fiercely chopped down at Yang Dingtian.